You're listening to the Youth Critic Podcast on KHZ Network. Find us on Facebook at Decibel UNG Radio and find us on Twitter at Decibel UNG. If you like this episode, please leave a like and comment on our iTunes page at KHZ Network. And now for the podcast.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Youth Critic Podcast. I'm your host, Cale Smith. Joining me today is Brandon Cooley.
Hey, everybody.
And also with us is Nick Brisbay.
Hi.
And later in the show, we'll have some other guests come on. But right now, the show is basically us going to be talking about Star Wars for probably the next hour to 2 hours. So buckle in. We're going to talk about Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and we are going to go into spoilers. But first off, we are going to just give our basic thoughts, and then I'll kind of tell everyone, and then I'll let you, the listener, know when we're going into spoilers. So, starting with you, just very quickly, what are your basic thoughts on Star Wars: The Last Jedi?
I loved it. I mean, there's no way else to describe it besides just a general, unabashed love of this movie.
All right, and Brandon?
Yeah, I loved it too. I think each of these movies have gotten better each year. This is better than the last two, and it's without spoiling it, it's really well written. It's probably, besides Empire, it has the most in-depth character study of each character, which, you know, Star Wars has never really been known for great characters necessarily, but this is one of the best ones of the franchise, I think, in that way. I can't talk about much without spoiling it. So.
Okay. All right. And I really like this as well. I've only seen it once, and I will see it a couple more times. But this was a fun 2.5 hours that went by so quickly, and I just had a blast. And the only thing I will say before we get into spoilers is that there is a lot to unpack with this movie, and that's the reason why I'm going back for more, because there's just so much going on. You can still follow the plot. It's not like Star Trek 09 where there is a lot going on, but it's going so fast that you can't catch it. It's, you know, it's perfectly paced, but there's still a lot going on. There's a lot to see, lots of new environments to explore, and lots going on plot-wise. Lots going on with these characters. And the greatest thing I can say about this movie, before we get into spoilers, is this movie had a straight and narrow arc and a straight and narrow direction of where to go. Every character had something that paralleled that theme of failure. Paralleled the theme of, you know, learning how to fail. So, in an interesting way, I really thought this was a bold movie. For a movie to tell the millennial generation to scale back the ambition, and not everything's going to go the way you think. So with that, with spoilers. Leave now if you haven't seen it, because I really, really want to know what porgs taste like.
I hope it tastes like chicken, because if they don't, I don't know what I killed out back, but it's going to taste a good second to it. I'm playing now. No, but I like to think that Chewie ate that thing just out of pure spite, because they're bugging him too much.
Well, they're everywhere. You can't get away from them.
Yeah, I mean,
they're like.
I think there was a comedian who said it a while back that he hasn't eaten veal ever since he got to hold a lamb, or not a veal. Yeah, he got to hold a baby cow in his hands. And he said he would never eat veal again in his life because he did that. And they said, well, do you want to go see the big cow? He's like, no.
So yeah, in this movie, there are porgs, and there's a scene where Chewie cooks one and roasts one, and that's the. With that out of the way, starting with you, Brandon, what, spoiler-wise, what do you think of this movie?
Well, I guess I'll ask, what was everybody's favorite moment or favorite aspect of it? For me, personally, it was Luke Skywalker, his character. I was never a huge fan. Well, I mean, I liked his character in the original trilogy, but I never really was that interested in his character, his arc, or anything like that. He kind of starts off whiny, and by the Return of the Jedi, he's not whiny anymore, but that's kind of simplifying it. But in this one, I thought he was great because he was a mix between a prankster like Yoda and the wise old sage like Obi-Wan, and he was very cynical, and I like that kind of like it's an interesting take on the character, I thought. I like his arc in the movie and how it ended, especially of him tricking Kylo Ren. If we're talking about spoilers. What was everybody's favorite aspect of the movie?
I love the movie. Rian Johnson just knocked it out of the park with just the visual style of this movie and the visual look of the film, and then the tonally speaking, and then writing speaking wise, like from a writer's perspective, I thoroughly enjoyed how tight the dialogue was, and how it was written in that sense, to where you had very little things that you found that were throwaway lines or something like that. Everything had a purpose. Everything they said had a little bit of a purpose or a meaning behind it. I just loved that feeling that Rian Johnson. I'm definitely gonna go back and watch Looper again after I see Star Wars 2 again, or Star Wars Last Jedi again. But
yeah, Brick's a great movie too. Yeah.
It is a great film. I haven't seen. Apparently, there's another one that he did where it was like set in a high school. I got to go see it. Kale, do you know what I'm talking about?
I think Brick does take place in a high school, but it may be a different one than that. Yeah.
I mean, I know Rian Johnson did Brick, The Brothers Bloom, and Looper, and he did some episodes for Breaking Bad. Other than that, I'm not sure what else I think that's his whole filmography. He might have done some other TV, but I don't recall him doing a high school movie.
Well, Brick takes place in high school, but it may be different.
Okay. I was thinking.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, as far as favorite moments, I don't have a particularly favorite moment that I like more than others. I just really would say I love how Johnson developed Kylo Ren even more, and I love where he took that character, and where after Brandon, I think you mentioned it. He did kill Snoke. Like, Snoke is dead, and he killed him with the Force. But and after the dust settled, after they killed all the Snoke's guards, Kylo makes this really interesting decision, and where he chooses to let's just decimate it all. You and I, we can work together to decimate every civilization or everything we know and start new. We can take over and start new. And his reasoning behind it is perfectly sound. And it even goes back too far as, and you understand why he's doing it. I mean, he felt betrayed by Luke, and he felt abandoned by Luke and Leia, his parents. So, and he definitely did not like Snoke. So it seems logical to burn everything and to also offer it the chance to, to burn the galaxy with him to Rey. And it all makes sense in that, confine. So as a villain's, because I loved Kylo Ren as a villain, and I loved and my other favorite part is Luke. him admitting to himself that he failed Kylo Ren because he was too high and mighty on himself. He was too much of, to basically, see that, this was not going to go well for Kylo, or that Kylo needed something more than a Jedi Master that was, egotistical. So I really loved that self-reflection that Luke had in there. And it's just, and also, I loved every minute of it to an extent, and we'll get to the flaws in a little bit, which I don't have that many. I don't have that many flaws. We'll get to them in just a minute. But overall, I felt like everything worked in sync. Everything worked.
Yeah.
I love Laura Dern's character and basically what she had to teach Poe Dameron along the way. I just really loved everything and how everything just was in sync for this whole movie.
Yeah, that scene when Snoke gets sliced in half is great because not only is it well filmed and so surprising, it's so unpredictable, but like you said, you do understand where Kylo Ren's coming from, because it's kind of like a pattern that where every Sith Lord wants to betray his own master and take over. And that's what he does. And his reasoning is simply that he doesn't really trust the Jedi or the Sith. And I think that's a great different direction to take of the character, or to take a villain instead, because it couldn't just be another Sith Lord, it had to be something different. And that's
I don't think Kylo or Snoke were Sith Lords or even Sith apprentices. I don't think they were Siths. I think
the equivalent,
And I think there's
the equivalent for this franchise.
I'm not sure what a Sith Lord really is, or the difference, but yeah, they were basically the Sith equivalent.
Well, they were the quote unquote the Sith for this, new trilogy.
Well, a Sith Lord is somebody that follows the Sith religion. That is simply, and I think that's why, because I think I read somewhere that Snoke had existed prior to the Sith existing ever. Like he was older than the Sith.
I guess I kind of assumed that his throne room looks like Palpatine's, and Kylo Ren idolizes Darth Vader, so they're kind of modeling. It's really the same difference: Palpatine, Darth Vader, Snoke, Kylo Ren. So it's may not be a Sith Lord, but they're the villains. It's that pattern that
But to go back to, I didn't say my favorite part of the movie. My favorite part of the movie was hands down that the light speed into the destroyer.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. That was my favorite part of the whole movie, just to see that four angle shot with, and then you could hear a pin drop in that theater. Just everything was just quiet, and I was like, that is awesome. And I'm gonna go back and see the movie just for that shot again, just to sit there and analyze and take that in a situation where I'm not surprised by it, where I'm just sitting there and just enjoying it, because I blurted out in the middle of my showing, holy shit, in the middle of my showing, and I ruined that for some people. So I really want to sit down and be like, just take it in this time.
Yeah. Our theater had a lot of cheering, a lot of clapping at certain moments, like when Snoke gets sliced in half and when Luke tricks Kylo Ren, there's a lot of cheering. It's always fun.
Yeah, we had a lot of that too, but I want to see the movie now without I want to see it now where it's not an issue of is the audience distracting me, or I can just sit there and analyze. I'm not having to work. I'm not having to be caught up in the moment.
Right. And I would say I think we're all on the high of our first. Has anyone else seen it? Has anyone here seen it for a second time?
No,
I was gonna see it tonight, but the tickets sold out, so we're seeing it tomorrow.
Okay, all right. Because I think we're all still on the high of the first viewing, and I think that's part of it. Analyze it some more, but going into it, I think I don't have that many flaws. Even as I was sitting and analyzing the whole movie in my head, I don't have that many flaws. I can see where people might get a little frustrated. But really, the only thing that was it was a bridge too far, if anything, was Leia surviving being, thrust into space and then floating back.
Everybody's been mentioning that.
A lot of people.
It is awkward. Yeah.
a lot of the reviews I've seen about it have said that they're like some people are on the fence about it, other people say they didn't like it, and then I've seen a lot of people actually say they loved it because they got to finally see her use the Force. Granted, I would not have picked that to be the first instance where we see her use the Force like that, but hey, I mean, I'm not going to hate on it. I actually didn't like the Canto Bight scenes that much. I thought that was the weakest part of the story, was having to
a B plot while everyone's like trying to run away from everything, or a C plot. Everyone's
yeah, or that plot where literally you have time to go to a gambling casino, hunt this dude down, get back to your ship, and then find out that the whole place is evacuating anyway. So you just basically wasted that entire plot line there for no reason whatsoever. And then I was kind of pissed off when I found out that they're going to do a Kaiser. I thought they're going to do Kaiser Soze when they did the thing with the Maz Kanata where she's like, you got to find this dude with the lapel pit thing. And they go and find him, and then it's got I forget it, Justin or whatever his name is. The guy who what's his name?
Justin Theroux.
Yeah, Justin Theroux was there for like a second, and then they just move on. I guess they didn't find the hacker they looked for, but the one they found in there is Benicio del Toro's character, but DJ just seems like some random dude. I thought it would be like maybe he lost his pin. I thought that would have been like somewhere weird where he gambled his pin away, and that's why the other dude had it. And it ended up being that this is the guy that they needed to find anyway. But they didn't even mention that at all. It's just some bum they found in there that could happen to do the job they needed.
Yeah, I felt that scene was tonally like. It was kind of off-putting the way it was filmed, all the CGI, because it felt like something that should be in Harry Potter and not Star Wars. Then again, I like the part where she mentions that these people are making their money off of selling weapons for the war, and that's kind of a cool, like, you don't really think about that. There's, when you think of Star Wars, you think of Tatooine, a lot of these poor places of this kind of future that just looks used and just like, you don't really think about the wealthy people and living in Star Wars. That's kind of a cool glimpse into that. I just would have done it differently. It should have been more like the scene in Force Awakens where they go to the I don't know what it's called, but basically the cantina scene in Force Awakens. It should have been more like that, maybe more puppets and just more of like a not as just flashy and not as like, I don't know. It had an odd feel to it.
I just feel like it was the wrong place to put that in a movie. If they were going to do that, they should have done it on that'd be like a cool B plot character, or not B plot, or like a standalone film where you'd have that storyline as an opener to it. You have to find they already are aware about this all the stuff. If they just started the movie off with this, like, hey, this is where the opening crawl is, and they have some kind of mission they're already on, and then it cuts to the main plot where you have the whole thing going on. If they just started on that, we're like, hey, where's Finn at? And Finn is already down on the planet looking for this stuff ahead of time because he has to help with such and such. It would have been one thing if they'd have done it that way, but no, they didn't have. But they took time out of the movie to go do this to this planet, release some alien horses, meet some kids that meet Broom Kid, and then just go back to the movie and find out that entire B plot or C plot was useless. There was no point to it. So that's my only gripe with the film. But otherwise, I enjoyed it still. Even with that, I just felt like it was that whole scene with Finn and Rose was just kind of pointless.
Yeah, and to add on to that, the only other scene that felt kind of odd to me was the scene where Finn tries to sacrifice himself and fly into the beam. That felt kind of forced and not really logical either, because that beam would have just destroyed his ship. I mean, they're flying these really weak ships, these junky old ships. Yeah, so the idea of him flying into it and actually that affecting anything is slim, and it just felt kind of forced. I don't know,
I also felt like the romance between Finn and Rose was kind of forced as well too.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
That's really it, though. I mean,
I don't know. Here's my defense for the whole C plot to go get DJ is you had to have basically is the one that takes charge in this, movie because after Leia is basically done for, Laura Dern kind of takes, her for the time given, and her plan is, let's just, keep going, hope we find something, we'll keep sending calls, whatever. So Poe doesn't like it because he just wants to, fight them off and then try and get away. So the only plan that Rose and Finn concoct is, let's go find some guy that will shut down this thing that's tracking us for like a few minutes, and then zoom off, and then we zoom off to safety.
Well, so
that's the plan.
So with that oh, good.
But the plan completely fails, and of course the whole theme of the movie is failure, learning from failure, trying to be wiser and pick the better plans. So I think it's a teachable moment in the movie. And plus, they didn't get the right guy. They did not. I want to confirm that the guy that we're supposed to get was Justin Theroux.
Mm-hmm.
DJ was just there.
That's why I felt like, well, what's the whole point of Maz Kanata's scene then? That whole thing where Maz has said, like, oh yeah, you can find him at this place, and then they just found some random bum in a cell that they ended up getting to anyway. So like, what was that whole plot line with the Rose thing? If that wasn't, or the corsage, if that's going to be the thing.
Well, I mean, you had to tell them where to go because there's plenty of systems that have hackers and whatnot. Yeah, but you had to have Maz Kanata send them off to find this one guy that will do it.
And then the other thing that I have like a small issue with is like the timing of the. Well, granted, I love the shot. If she knew for a fact that she was already going to send these people off to go hide for the smaller ships, and she knew she had as an option to just let them take down the big one, I would have just, personally speaking, if I knew I had that in my back pocket to begin with, I'd have put everyone in lifeboats initially. As soon as everyone was on the lifeboats and got off, I would have done a full 180. I would not have waited. I would have done a full 180 and sent that bitch right into their ship, rammed them, just to give them as much chance as possible for them, because they're not going to chase them after that point. At least they're not going to chase them until they get to the mainland. And you would have saved a whole lot more people. And all those ships you see them start taking people off, you would have saved a lot more of the rebellion that way.
Yeah, it's really clunky how that happens. But to be fair, we don't know how long she waited to make that decision, because as we're seeing, like, they're firing just shots at these little boats as quickly as possible. So, and there's still a lot of them. So we don't quite know how fast that decision-making process was. And it probably didn't
occur to her until just at that moment. I mean, it never occurred to me to do that because I didn't know you could. No one's probably ever tried to fly their ship using light speed into another one, and it's new to me. Maybe that was her plan the whole time. I don't know.
Because and that's the thing, we don't know, because when she's on there, it's like, why do you need to be there to steer the ship?
Yeah,
like true. If they're gonna just see you guys go, oh wait, no, they were cloaked, but then they were revealed to be cloaked. It's kind of a clunky plot way to get everyone off the ship. Like, it's a very clunky way, and it is, all in all, like a clunky way to kind of have that, moment where that reveal of, well, Poe and Finn's plan failed, but because of that, because their plan failed, a lot of people are now going to die, because DJ can basically say, hey, those guys are leaving. You should probably shoot them. So it's clunky, but it does service the theme of the movie, if that makes any sense. And that's kind of what I like about the movie, is that everything is in service of a narrative line.
What do you think the theme was? Or?
Learning from failure. Because everyone, even the older generation, is learning from their failure. I mean, Luke and Leia are learning from the failure of Kylo Ren.
Because Yoda says that, or between the two of them in that one scene? Or?
No. I mean, it really is, like, all throughout, like, it really is the whole idea of the movie is these people. Everyone has to fail in order to succeed, in order to come up with a better plan to succeed and get out of a hairy situation.
Isn't that like every Star Wars movie, though? I mean, Empire is that way, too. I mean, everybody kind of fails in that one. I mean,
but it's
they
not
mess up a lot.
it's not, sure, but that's more subtextual than actual text.
Well, you could also make the argument that Empire and the original trilogy was more about a father-son story and the dynamic between a one generation versus another generation, and that and how transcending generations is the only way that we will together succeed as a society. You can make that argument as opposed to this one, which is more along the lines of like, if you learn from, like, I get what he's saying, where you have to learn from mistakes and you have to learn from your failures, and it's only through trials and tribulations and through trial and error will you ever really learn from your lessons and learn to grow as an individual and as a society. So I get what he's saying about that. I think another cool thing about the show that happened, message about the show, is that the necessity of transcending dark and light, which is a very big method that Luke sort of understood, and I wish they would have harped on a little bit more. And at one point, I thought they were going to go to Grey Jedi and talk about Grey Jedi, but they didn't really go that far, and I was kind of disappointed with that. But it's still a really good message, or the symbolic message of it's not about dark or light. It's not about good or evil. It's not about a side. It's about your faith. The fact that you just have a belief and a faith in the one true force, and that it doesn't matter where you. It's like the Jedi were just as vain as the Sith were, and vice versa. And like it was a very interesting commentary on previous movies.
It's funny. I don't think the Jedi really were. I think they were naive. I wouldn't say they were vain or anything. I think that Luke's point was that they let Palpatine come to power, and so whatever the Jedi were wasn't good enough, maybe, and they need to like transcend that. There's a scene where he talks to her and he tells her that.
Well, it's about.
That's what I was thinking. That's why he's cynical about it. That makes sense why he feels that way.
Well, he is. The point. It's the old Jedi Order didn't work, but that doesn't mean we throw it away or abandon it. We keep building on it. We build on.
Yeah, start fresh. Yeah.
We build on future. What future generations teach us.
Yeah.
So and that was kind of Luke's journey, as well as that he has to learn that the next generation will continue building more of our own mythology, of our own religion.
Yeah. The scene I really enjoyed was when Rey goes into the pit, that awesome looking like that those vines going down. The way Luke explains it, it's like it exists on the island because the island is so like possessed with the Force that has to have the dark side too, or something. It's kind of an interesting reason why it's there. But anyway, she goes down inside, and I love that scene where it's the mirror effect, where she can see herself a million times, and the mirror, how she wants to know who her parents are, and she only sees herself. My theory about this is that there's a scene in Force Awakens where she shows up in a dream sequence in the hallway from Empire Strikes Back, the duel scene between Luke and Darth Vader. I think she may be the reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker. I think that may be what the reveal is in Episode 9, and that's why they showed that in The Force Awakens. And that's why she saw herself in the mirror in that one scene, because Kylo Ren tells her parents were just nobodies, and they may be, but the idea maybe is that she's that, like, she was born from the Force like Anakin was. I can't remember what the reasoning was, but that may be the result. That may be the twist in Episode 9, I think. So
in Episode 1, they established that Anakin was a Force-born baby, that he was.
Yeah.
And then at one point, and then now it's non-canon in the Plagueis book, Darth Plagueis, they connected him to Plagueis in the sense that Plagueis had manipulated the Force to cause Shmi to become pregnant, or the Force to impregnate her as such. There's that one, but then there's but I think here's why I don't necessarily agree with the fact that she's a reincarnation. But if she were, it'd be a really cool message to say, where she still came from no one and came from nothing. But I think the fact that they talk about how her parents being nothing is very symbolic of, she doesn't have to be anyone. She doesn't need to be anyone at all. She can simply just be a character, and that's who, or she's the most important character in the story, and she came from nothing, and so from nothing to something versus having somebody that came from someone and is now more important. So it's that Jesus metaphor where she sort of, I wouldn't necessarily say if she is the reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker. I don't see how they would go about explaining that because of the fact that she had parents, like both parents.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd definitely be interested to see if how they would go about writing that in there, and especially with the new methods of force using that we've seen so far, and how versatile the force can be.
Yeah. Well, and plus, Luke keeps mentioning the movie how she has such a connection to the dark side in several moments, and I think that was kind of a red herring to make you wonder if she was going to join Kylo Ren or not in that one scene. But maybe it's like the idea is that she is capable of having connections to both the Force and the dark side. I don't know. It's just interesting, that scene in Force Awakens where she shows up in the hallway. It's a great scene. It's a great scene. I'm not sure why they put it there if that's not the reason why.
So I've seen some people.
Connection.
Some people, there's the lightsaber theory that's where every place you see that she was in there.
Okay.
Present.
That could be it. Yeah.
And that's why she picks it up every time, because you see that scene where he's fighting Vader, the lightsaber's there. You see that scene, something in the rain on that planet. You see Kylo Ren's in his left hand. You see a lightsaber in that hand. And who knows if that's actually the past or the present. The past or the future, because some people have said that it could, or speculate that it might be the future too, or that's where it happens on a planet where Rey's going to be found, and that lightsaber is going to be an integral part in Episode 9 as well. But the lightsaber theory kind of is the only plausible one I've seen so far as why that's in that movie. Kayla, you have something to say?
The only reason why that probably wouldn't be present or future now is because Kylo destroys his helmet.
Mm-hmm.
He destroys it for good, and he destroys it for good reason. That's why I think maybe it's still in the past, because it's still mentioned that there are Knights of Ren everywhere. Kylo started it up, and it's mentioned by Luke that he took some of the Jedi with him, or some of the Knights with him, and I think those became the Knights of Ren.
I wish, and I feel like that was a really big wasted moment in the throne room scene when they didn't reveal those guards as the Knights of Ren. I thought that was a horrible waste of.
I didn't know they were the Knights. I'm not sure what the Knights of Ren are, but those guards are awesome, though.
I'm kind of connecting the two together.
But
I'm just trying to connect my knowledge of this all together.
No, but I'm saying I think it's a horrible waste of them using the Knights of Ren or doing the Knights of Ren. I wish those people they fought around Snoke, those guys in the Red Guard or whatever they're called. I wish that they would have been the Knights of Ren, because that would have made it that much more of a
power
weight power.
What
would have had weight onto what he's doing and what he's deciding to do. He's throwing away everything he's been a part of so far. Anything to do with Snoke, anything to do with his past president. He's starting brand new. So the Knights of Ren are going to go away. The Snoke has gone away. The dark side's gone away, or the Sith have gone away. Now the Jedi are gone. He wants to start a whole new order of the Force, and that's sort of what he should have done. That's why I'm kind of mad that they didn't use them. But I guess we'll get the Knights of Ren hopefully in Episode 9.
What are the Knights of Ren? I missed that part apparently in the.
They're
in the Force Awakens. Or they're.
No, they aren't. What do you mean they're in Force Awakens? What do you mean?
They're a Black Hand type feel, like a group of people, like personal assassins to.
Oh, is it in the rain scene? Is the people saying next to? Okay, well, I didn't know they were called Knights of Ren. I knew there were people next to him. I didn't know they were called that. Okay.
I think we're trying to connect the two, that they are the Knights.
Was that in did you read that somewhere? Because they don't call them that in Force Awakens, do they?
They don't specifically call them, but I think.
Okay. Wow.
That's what's been said. Is that I think it's A, Abrams confirmed it, and B, I think it was, it's you're connecting the two as an audience.
Well, I was assuming he had a posse with him. I didn't know they were called Knights of Ren, but okay.
Well, so when you see that scene, you see those people that are around him. It was later on revealed in their bonus material for Force Awakens, where you see a bunch of the different fan arts and stuff like that. And they actually go through and they say, these are the Knights of Ren. There's a sniper, there's a hitter, there's a heavy, there's a an assassin, and there's like a ninja, and there's like one other one too. That but each has their own little caricature, and there's 5 of them, I think. At one point though, there was a theory that I thoroughly enjoyed. It was by Matt Pat had made it for that, which is he thought the people from Rogue One were the Knights of Ren, and I thought that would have been really cool to have done that, but I didn't know how they would explain that.
That'd be kind of a stretch. I don't know. They'd be really old by that point, I guess. But
I mean, Luke kicked some serious ass, but it was still a vision, though.
Luke
really kind of just built it. What's funny is you could just like, what's funny about that scene, we're kind of skipping to the end here. When Luke and Kylo had their big battle, like he looks really great. I mean, he looked like he went like CrossFit like while he was on the ship on the way there. So I mean, he must have really like imagined himself as like, I'm gonna look really good when I fight this guy. It's gonna be amazing. And he goes and you know, beforehand, it was really nice of him to go to his sister, to Leia, and I forget. Did he beg did he ask for forgiveness, or did he? Like, I can't remember the specifics of the conversation, but do you guys remember how that conversation went?
I forgot about that conversation. I paid more attention to the twist at the end of how he's not really there, or tricking Kylo Ren. That was a bigger deal for me.
I think he asked for forgiveness. I don't think he said I don't think he begged for it. And then the one thing I didn't understand, because I didn't know I don't think for a fact he knew that Kylo was going to go find these, was the little dice thing. I think that was a little bit over the top, as far as just like, how does he keep that dice in corporeal form after the fact that he'd already like been gone for a hot minute or two?
Yeah.
Kylo walks in, finds the dice, and he's already gone and dead. He's been dead for like a good 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of.
I didn't know there were dice in the Millennium Falcon until this movie. If you go back, you can actually see the dice hanging on the very top, which is kind of cool. I didn't notice that.
I mean, it was a thing that the dice were there. Like it's in those arts books or production, you know, the concept arts of Star Wars, one of those books. But yeah, it's been there. It's just we've never seen them up close.
Yeah.
To bring it back, since we're kind of skipping around a little bit, what y'all think about the R2 reuniting with Luke?
Oh, it was really good. Although,
I like the moment. Go ahead. Yeah.
So did Luke just like force power down him, or was that just? Or did he just power down himself for like a period of time? Like, how did that work? I can't remember.
In the previous movie or the current movie?
This movie. Or I guess in the previous movie.
In the previous movie, he was in R2 had so much data he had to store, and the fact that Luke had sort of left that mode where he wasn't really powered down. He just had so much data he was having to sift through, and in low power mode, he didn't. And by the time the plot has kicked in for R2, it was time for R2 to finish sifting through all that data and become active again, because he'd had so much he had to go through. That's why he did that. In this movie, R2 was fine. He was just sitting in the ship chilling.
I've never asked these questions before, so I'm not sure. I just like the scene where R2-D2 like shows Leia, you know, from the original movie, and Luke's like, "That's not cool, man. That's yeah." I love that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
The callback is awesome. People are always complaining about fan service. I like that scene. I like some scenes with fan service. I don't care I don't know why people hate it so much, but
I like the meaning behind the fact that like only R2 could do that. Only R2 would be the one to be like he was that. That's how much the relationship R2 had with Luke. That R2 would be the one to be like, all right, you need to fucking get to work, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
I'm pretty sure he said that because there's at one point he said, "Hey, there's no need for that language."
Yeah, well, and also I think R2 is like R2 is trying like Rey and Chewie, like, you know, trying to convince Luke like, we need you, like your sister is like being brutally murdered by her son and some, redheaded kid. So everyone's we need you to come back and do something. And Luke kind of does bring up a good point. Like, what am I going to do? What do you think I'm going to do? Just, show up and basically wave my hands around and send everybody flying? Like, what do you think I'm going to, like, I mean, it's not that some specific line of dialogue, but it's basically that, like, he has a point. Like, what does everyone expect him to do? So, but in the end, he does, like, get them out of a hairy situation. And it's really cool.
I would have told them that I was like a hologram and not real, because what if they just kept watching him battle Kylo Ren? Like, there's no saying that, because I mean, like, they're caved in. I mean, and there's nowhere to go, and they only realize the wolves are like going toward the back when, by luck, I guess. I mean, it's just kind of funny that Luke is so like. I mean, obviously, it had to be that way because the movie had to be suspenseful, it had to be a surprise. But it's just funny that Luke assumes that they know to leave while he's distracting them.
Yeah,
but that's nitpicking. That's not even the problem, because it's a great sequence. It's a great moment when it's revealed that he's a hologram. Like, I love that moment, so it's not even a complaint. But
and it's such a badass scene. I mean,
yeah,
just
it is.
when you're thinking about, even when you realize it's all like a vision or something in everyone's head, it's still like a badass moment for Luke.
I think I read somewhere that you see that, like, the real things, like just the way he walks in the room, and the way that his beard is trimmed and his hair is cut, and like it's supposed to be that, like, this is how he views himself as a little bit younger. He's a little bit younger too, and that, like, it's supposed to be, you're not supposed to pick up on it initially, but like if you go back and watch it a second time, you do pick up on the fact that, like, he is a Force ghost for, like, just the subtle way he's acting. And then, like, you see, and then, like, even then when it is revealed at the end of it, you go back and you reflect on how he was acting in that. You're supposed to be like, oh yeah, I could see where he was doing it the whole time, and like,
his lightsaber never touches with Kylo Ren's, and I was watching. I'm like, that's kind of weird. They're not actually touching lightsabers. Why is that? And then obviously it's because he doesn't want to give it away. That's a good detail to add in.
Well, on top of that, he also has Anakin's lightsaber and not his own lightsaber. When they know for a fact that Rey had his lightsaber, so that should have been another clue. Is like when he drew out Anakin's lightsaber, like, why would he fight with that lightsaber if wasn't,
the lightsaber blew up earlier?
Did it blow up?
That's true.
Yeah.
It got ripped in half. But yeah, that's true.
That blew up. Like, we see it afterwards. We see it, like, in the very, like, last few shots of the movie blown up. Like, it's in pieces.
Okay. I remember that.
He grabs the lightsaber, and they're kind of like trying to both pull at it while right before the ship gets sliced in half. But,
yeah.
There's a great sequence too. But
but yeah, it's just a real, everything is just really good moments, and of course they beautifully, I'm gonna reveal it, they beautifully send Luke off. They kill him off in a beautiful sunset. That's just one sun.
And then I love that they John. Oh, by the way, John Williams, hands down, best choice to have done this movie for.
How would you want it any other way?
I would, if any other one had done this movie, I would have been completely disappointed. But the fact that, like, when John Williams' score came in for not only just that scene where you see he's about to die, he's about to fade out, and you hear the binary sunset happening, you see the two suns setting and stuff like that. That's a callback to episode 4 when he walks outside of the hut and you hear that fridge horn come in and play that sound, and then you see that it's the sun's going down in the desert. That's a good callback to that. On top of that, you have a good callback to the trench run scene and the Millennium Falcon theme in episode 4 where she's like, oh, I like that, and you and then you have that come in there, and then you mix that in with just little subtle themes. John Williams did a fantastic job with this movie, and I would have been thoroughly disappointed had anyone else done this movie but him.
Yeah, John Williams, poor guy. He's an very old man.
90
He's
years
still
old.
music. What?
I think he's 90 years old.
Wow.
Not yet. He's like
He has to be in his 80s. Yeah.
I think. I think he had an 85th birthday this year. And he has another movie that he just finished the music of, coming out in a couple weeks, called The Post with Spielberg.
Yeah, there you go. He'll likely win Best Picture, I think. That's my prediction. We'll see.
Already?
Yeah, because I told you my reason why. It has to all do with the culture and the Trust me, it's going to win. Yeah.
1932. He's 85. My bad.
What?
Yeah, he's 85. He was born in 1932.
Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah, and it's just like going back to the death scene. It's just so wonderful because it's just one sun that he's looking at as it's setting, and he just dissipates, and it's wonderful. Like, and it's beautiful. And I think Ray described it the best. Like, it wasn't sad, it wasn't happy, it was just peaceful. It's just, he finally did something to redeem himself, and it was everything right. And Luke has like this great message at the end of the movie. Like, yes, the Rebel Alliance, they're pretty much, in the gutter right now, but you have actually reborn them. Kind of help them further along. You're the fool here. You and Hux are the fools here, in thinking that it's all done, and that you're just, and when you destroy them, it's going to constantly keep coming back. And that's what really the whole idea of the movie is. And I can see people being like, well, then what's left for episode 9 to do now that pretty much a lot of what episode 7 has set up is now tied. I think if you look at the movie, I think you can see where some things where Abrams and Chris, or previously Colin Trevorrow, where they could have gone. So
I wouldn't say everything's tied up though, because I think that Kylo Ren's still out there. He's still the villain.
Oh yeah, I mean, you still have like the First Order, but they're pretty much completely the Resistance. They're pretty much severely weakened in this movie at the end. I mean, they don't have they have 2 kids that are fighting for the top, and so they're kind of in a weak spot, just like the Resistance is too.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to see the dichotomy of just seeing her become. She's not really. I don't think she's gonna. When Luke says he's not gonna be the last Jedi. I think he will be, in the sense that he'll be the last Jedi of that age, or at least of that form of religion. Because we know for a fact she's going to start a new Jedi Order and a new. If she does start a Jedi Order, at least a new way of the Force that is going to be different than anything we've seen so far, and it may be closer to the center as opposed to one left and one right.
And I think that's what the second ending is referring to, is that the Jedi will still continue. Like, yes, Luke is the last of his kind, but continue. The Force will continue, and the Jedi, and there will be Jedi again.
Do you think Luke will come back as a Force ghost? Because I think he will.
Sure, why not?
I did.
I know, and that was another thing. We haven't talked about that yet.
Yoda? Yeah. Well, it's funny because when that first happened, it was kind of awkward at first, the first 5 seconds, but then I really got into it. It was really cool by the end.
Yoda looked
I loved it, yeah.
I wasn't used to it. I think they used both versions of the puppets at one point.
Yeah, it was a puppet, but it was also CGI. It was an interesting mix of it, but
he got better.
I liked it though. Yeah.
Here's another good question: why could Yoda? Can all Force ghosts, or is it just Yoda can interpret the real world or interact with the real world?
Yeah, because he sends lightning down. I didn't know he could do that.
Oh, he also hits Luke on the forehead.
That's true. Yeah. I don't know.
This movie really does take a lot of liberties.
But I mean,
wouldn't say
But the fact that he sends the lightning down is so great in terms of storytelling. It doesn't matter that it's breaking the rules or what we thought were the rules. I mean,
So
I don't know.
Somebody pointed out to Christian Harloff from Collider Jedi Council pointed out to me that Yoda knew for a fact that those texts were not in the tree. The Force of the Will or the Diary of the Will were not in the tree. If you notice at the end at the end of the movie when Rey's opening that drawer on the Falcon, those texts are in that little drawer there.
Okay. Well,
if you go back, you'll see it again later. But you'll see those.
Doesn't he say though that like I have read it? I have, and page turners they are not. I love that line.
I like that Yoda had the knowledge to.
Yeah.
But he still knew that that the faith was still in good hands with her. And I think it would have been. I think if he didn't know that, it would have been a lot more interesting to see that. But I think the fact that he knew that she'd taken them from there was really good. And then that even Master Yoda himself was like, yeah, this method of Jedi needs to end, and we need to start fresh.
Mm-hmm. And that's what this whole series is anyway, or this new trilogy is anyway. Is we gotta get rid of the old, and not get rid of it, but let's start new. Let's kind of refresh everything, and so that's why I'm very intrigued. And we are going to get into this before we got to go on. And it is Saturday, so it's like just a day or two after the movie came out. But why is it already that people are criticizing the movie already? Or why do you guys think that the audience reaction has been mixed?
We were talking about that before the podcast started. The audience review on Rotten Tomatoes is much lower than the critics, which never happens for blockbusters. It's like 67%, which is pretty harsh. I mean, and there was a friend on Facebook that said that something like he wanted to watch Return of the Jedi to get the taste of Last Jedi out of his mouth. And I just shared the honest trailer for Return of the Jedi just now on Facebook. It's Return of the Jedi is, I think, aged badly. I don't think you can top the original two, Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, but these last three movies have been pretty good so far. Yeah, I would even say great in some ways. I don't know why people are just always have something to complain about.
I think the explanation for it, which I can't really, I'm not a census or I don't have really any expert, but my theory behind it would be that people had these expectations of it, and they weren't met with. So what's another thing that, like, Rian Johnson is a very fantastic writer and film director, and from what I've seen so far of his work, and when he took a lot of liberties with mythology. And we know, I've seen a few people say that it could be that a lot of the scores you see on Rotten Tomatoes, or like the people that like the film, or the people that actually enjoyed the film, don't get on Rotten Tomatoes and really talk about it that much. The people the hardcore fanboys, the hardcore people that do this for, that aren't critics but still are well versed in the knowledge, they got on to Rotten Tomatoes and all this other stuff because they're like, this kind of ruined their method or their image of the movie in their heads. So that's why you see that 65% audience approval rating as opposed to the critics' approval rating. Critics love this movie because of just how visually and how well the story is told, not even as fans. They just like it because some of them aren't even Star Wars fans. They're not really well versed in that. But a lot of the audience is a lot more in tune with Star Wars lore and Star Wars mythology. So they're going to be the ones that'll have a different weight as far as to what they believe the truth, what Last Jedi should have been versus what it actually was.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, and as of this recording, audience score on Rotten Tomatoes right now is 57%. But interesting enough, the cinema score, which is really like
that's the real one you got to look at.
It works because you get to see like how well people thought they were promoting, how well it's hard to put the words together. It's how they felt when they walked out. It really is like where they sold the right product basically. And the cinema score for this movie right now is an A. It's pretty. It's very interesting. So I don't know what to tell. Maybe the people that don't like it are more vocal than the people that do love it. Because I'm talking to you guys, and we all love it. And most of the people I've talked to, and in my colleagues, critic circle, we all really love it. So it's interesting that the audience's reaction has been super mixed and super varied.
Mm-hmm.
So very interesting. It's just really interesting. And even as, I was walking into seeing this movie, my friend Diego Crespo from Waffle Press, even if you're not 100% on board, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, if you're not quite on board, just let it sit with you afterwards. So I think even, a lot of people knew before we all saw the movie Thursday night, or before general audiences saw it on Thursday night, that it was going to be divide. It was going to divide people. So overall, I found the reaction to this very interesting, because even movies, like recently, like Justice League has an 80%, audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. So, and I don't even like that movie at all. So it's just super fascinating that this Star Wars movie has divided people.
Well, I think I told you this, Caleb, before we started the podcast. Star Wars fans have gotten very spoiled almost, because all three of these movies have been very different, and they still don't think it equals the original trilogy, and that's fine if you don't think it does. But they just really nitpick it and just try to pretend that Star Wars should be this one thing, even though it can never be like the original trilogy. I mean, for example, Force Awakens was very similar to New Hope, and I didn't mind that, but a lot of people had problems with it. But then Rogue One was an original story, but then the characters weren't well developed, even though I thought they were fine. And then the best character I think a lot of people think is Han Solo, but then when they announced a prequel about him, people complain. And now they're complaining about this one. I think no matter what happens, people are going to complain about these new Star Wars movies. I mean, it's just, I don't get it. I mean, whenever I watch these new movies and there's something a flaw, I always remember the prequels and Jar Jar Binks and, all the craziness of the prequels and how much better these are,
And to give,
well, go ahead, Nick.
Okay, and to give a little bit of leeway even to the prequels. You got to look at the era these came up in. The times, these are all different. These are all products of their times. They're all products of where they come from and who the current fan base is. So if you look at, here's why like the prequels didn't work. Like you don't have a young director or a younger director directing that's actually working. You had George Lucas when the prequel was going out. He was ancient then whenever they were making 1, 2, and 3. He was kind of old there.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't as in touch with that. You have young film directors like Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams, and who did Rogue One?
Gareth Edwards.
Yeah, Gareth Edwards. These younger directors that are more in touch with today's visual style and the way things that we're making films these days. It was a lot different then. So, Force Awakens is a product of its time. Rogue One is a product of its time, and Last Jedi is a product of its time. It is their modern takes on this universe. They're not
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to be the old 80s nostalgic ones, because if you did that, then you'd have to go back and put the director in that mind frame, which you're not going to do, because you're not going to get a director who's going to write in that mind frame because he didn't grow up in that time frame.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you have to get all models, all puppets, and completely different filmmaking style, which I enjoy, but you're not going to do that again. I mean, it's not.
Well, yeah, and you're never going to recapture it completely. Even, I mean, there's something to be said about, and I am looking forward to this movie, but there's something to be said about Ready Player One coming out and being, this 80s nostalgia fest. In the end, it's going to be a 200, probably I'm just hypothetically saying, it's probably going to be a $200 million CG fest.
Yeah.
CG, which if anyone remembers, CG did not exist in 1980. So,
well, but how would you not do a CGI though? Because it's a virtual
fair.
world. So.
Well, that's fair, but I'm saying my point is it's impossible to recapture magic that was done 3 decades ago. And I think if we did completely try to recapture magic, I think we would fail. And even then, if we did somehow recapture or rekindle feelings we had 3 or 4 decades ago, like Force Awakens tried to do, I think in the end, you're still going to get people saying, no, the original. We want something original. We want something for this generation. And I think Abrams is, and there are flaws to Force Awakens. I'm not blind to them. It's the idea is, but Abrams kind of did, I think, probably the best you could do, trying to rekindle feelings, but also kick off a generation for us millennials. And put us in, and try to do something, and try to have something to say for modern times. Like you said, Nick, this trilogy is a product of its own time. So I feel like Abrams did the best he could, but I still think, I think by Johnson picking, let's just make a movie, let's continue this trilogy for new audiences and try new things and do that, I think was a better approach.
Oh, isn't he also getting his own?
What?
Isn't he also getting his own trilogy after episode 9?
Yes,
and that'll be entirely separate.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with this current trilogy.
The question is, are they going to be Star Wars episodes, or are they going to just be their own movies that are a trilogy within that universe? Because it would be interesting to see if they just stop being episodes and they're just a movie trilogy set in that movie. Like maybe such and such 1, a Star Wars story, such and such 2, a Star Wars story.
That's a good question, because right now we have 2 different types of Star Wars movies currently going. We have the episodes, Force Awakens and Last Jedi, and whatever episode 9 will be. And then the other flip side, we're having these movies called Star Wars stories, like Rogue One, what we're going to get next May with Solo, a Star Wars story, and eventually what we're going to get with Obi-Wan and Boba Fett. So it's interesting what that will be, because none of these, and to be fair, we've only gotten 1 Star Wars story right now, but none of these films have tried to be sequels yet. Mm-hmm. Interesting what Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy decide on in terms of, is this going to be counted as episodes, or are we going to count this, as Star Wars stories, or some completely whole new thing? So that's a very interesting question, Nick.
And then, and if you do take it that route, do you pick up in the past or the present or the future? I hope they don't do the present, or if they did do the present, they'd have to do something. It'd be cool if they did do the present. It'd be cool to have allusions to what's going on during the episodes. Like that'd be really cool to have little references to it, but not have that like sort of what Rogue One did, where you had those little references to what's going on. Where somebody said, somebody on, maybe it'd be cool if like I've always been pitching this, and I still will pitch this to the day I die. It'd be cool to have a Western film on Tatooine where you hear about some stuff going on from the main plot line, but it's just through word of mouth, but it's not the main focus of the movie.
Boba Fett, that could be a Boba Fett movie, only Tatooine, Actually, my favorite idea for a Star Wars story is Shadows of the Empire. Are you aware of, or is anybody familiar with that from the late 90s? It was the attempt to kind of market Star Wars before Phantom Menace, and they had a video game, a book, a comic book series. But the general premise is that it takes place in between Empire and Return of the Jedi, and it's about the rebels kind of trying to find out where Han Solo is being taken, Boba Fett taking Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt, and there's a whole backstory with this criminal enterprise kind of, and the Death Star being rebuilt. I would take the piece of story I would take from that is I would make a movie about Boba Fett transporting Han's body, frozen carbonite, to Jabba the Hutt, and make a bounty hunter movie about that. I think that'd be really clever to have the MacGuffin be Han Solo. It'd be kind of awesome. I mean, that would be such a middle finger to the audience, and it'd be so unique. I think it'd be about a villain. I mean, that'd be
So wait, are you saying it'd be like so in between Empire and Return of the Jedi?
Yeah.
Does he lose the body, or does he lose the body, or something like that? Or
well, in the comic book series, in the book, Boba Fett's being attacked by all the other bounty hunters. They're trying to get to Han Solo before he delivers him to Jabba the Hutt because he's worth like a lot of money, right? So it'd be kind of a funny backstory or a funny perspective on that.
I think it'd be really cool just to see if you were to do it that way. Boba Fett's or Slave One crash landing on like some godforsaken planet, and then you just see Han's body just drop and hit something, or like a house or something like that.
Yeah.
And you just see like some poor family, like you know how you saw in Last Jedi, you saw like the caretakers had their car, they were pushing the cart, and like a rock that Rey cuts in half just rolls down the cliff and knocks their cart off the edge, and then
yeah.
Cool, we just see Han Solo's body bounce down a cliff and just hit some random house.
I guess maybe Han Solo's body being the MacGuffin's more of a joke than an actual plot. But I just want to see, like, in Star Wars, there's this like seedy underbelly to like this kind of underworld that exists with bounty hunters and Jabba the Hutt and all this. I kind of want to see a movie about that, you know, just
like a Cad Bane movie or like a noir film set on Coruscant. I think that'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I never was a huge fan of Coruscant, but they can make it cool by having it be a noir kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I were to do a Star Wars story, you know, Brandon, your Boba Fett movie is pretty funny. I would actually watch that for 2 hours.
It may not work, but it's an interesting idea. Yeah.
It's an interesting idea, you know. But if I were to do a Star Wars movie, I would like to explore more of the Jedi. Like, I would like to explore more of the Force, because I feel like, I mean, I know the prequels explored some of it a bit, and some of the EU have explored some of it a bit, but cinematically, I would love to see, like, the old religion or old Republic. I would love to see, you know, some of those, you know, stories we kind of hear in the background of the prequels, or some idea. I would kind of like to explore more of the past. That's where I would, you know, set my sights, because right now I don't really care about the future, because the future is unwritten. You can do anything whatever you want after episode 9. But before, why explore something, keep going when there's all this great stuff that you can tell, you know, thousands of years before episode 1 starts. So that's where I would go, personally, or what I would like to see. Yeah. Rian Johnson, good luck. Maybe your film will be much more loved than this current movie. So do we have any more to say on The Last Jedi?
I have 2 things to say about The Last Jedi. One, I would definitely like to see where this film goes, because like I honestly didn't see this reveal or this ending, this style of ending where you see like the broom kid where he walks outside and they're telling a little story with all the little things on that side, and then he walks outside and forces the broom to come to him real quick, and then he looks up at the stars. You see that to me felt like almost like a that should have been a trilogy ender to me personally. Like the way this movie ends felt like it felt like it ended the trilogy too soon, and I felt like Last Jedi was too much of it felt like a part 3 and not a part 2, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it did. It felt like a finale. It was odd that way.
I would have liked to have seen them if honestly, to be really honest, I would have liked them have just escaped, and that would have been, they would have ended it there, where they got off, maybe they got the planet or something like that. They didn't have the scene where you have Luke. Maybe you bring Luke in the 3rd one, and he's a Force ghost in that one, and he has to do that. I thought it would have been really. I feel like, where do you go from now? Like what story do you tell with that kind of ending that they already have, like that kind of hopeful, optimistic one? That would have been really cool to end on a third parter if they're going to do the trilogy. But like, where do you go from here? That's sort of what I wanted to talk about. Was like, where? Well,
episode 9. I mean, Leia mentions the war is just beginning, so I'm assuming episode 9 may be. Well, the Resistance is kind of like beaten at this point. There's like only 50 of them left, but I mean, I think it's gonna be like that. It's gonna be more of like a war movie, or not a war movie, but like an all-out battle between the Resistance and the First Order. In terms of like Rey's story, though, I'm not sure where that's gonna go, because like I said, they keep mentioning that she has a connection to the dark side, so maybe that'll be explored. She won't join the dark side, I doubt, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
I think the ending. I think the last very ending of this movie, it hints to Rey starting her own Jedi temple, and where she will go out and search for new Jedis and people who are strong with the Force. And I wouldn't be surprised if they time jump Episode 9 to like 10 or 15 years after The Last Jedi to show that she started her own school and she's now the master. She's now, she's now leading everyone forward, leading this new crop of kids to be the new Jedi. And now and along with the Resistance, with Finn and Poe and Rose, they are now going out and fight. They're now kind of mending their wounds enough to where they can now fight the First Order again, which they've also mended their wounds and are kind of like in a social contract and Hux and Kylo are in their own little social contract of, we won't kill each other for the time being. Because you can tell that Hux is like just waiting to just kill Kylo just so he can take control. I mean, he really is like the spoiled second brother of Snoke. Second child of Snoke.
If I was in the writer's room for this, I probably wouldn't go with that plot line of Rey training new kids, because I don't think she would be ready for that yet.
But
honestly, I'm not sure what I would do. Well, yeah, but I'm not sure if she's experienced enough to actually train kids of how to become Jedi. But honestly, I wouldn't want to be in the writer's room for this, because I can't imagine how much pressure you'd feel for writing the new Star Wars movie, like knowing there's going to be so many fans that are either going to love it or hate it. Like, it'd be so difficult to it's got to be such a tough job to write these movies, because to strike that balance between like the old stuff and the new, and plot twists that no one's expecting, but still making it feel like Star Wars it's got to be really tough.
Well, the other thing that you can think about too is I think it would be really cool to set this 2 years or at least a few years in the future, as opposed to just right out so sort of how that you have that gap between Empire and Return of the Jedi. You see Luke has grown as a master without Yoda, and I guess that's also something I didn't even think about. That like the fact that Rey's master is gone now, just like how Yoda disappeared in Episode 2, or not in episode. He disappears at the beginning of Episode 3. I mix my movies up, but how sort of Luke became a more powerful Jedi without going back to Dagobah. He didn't have to go back to Dagobah. He came at the end of Dagobah to go see Yoda, see Yoda's funeral, and to see Yoda pass on. But I don't think it was. Go on.
Get more info from Yoda.
What's up?
Get more info from Yoda. Get more. Find out what's the next step in the Jedi training. But really, he's just like on the verge of becoming master. What will make him a master is how he handles his father at the end of this. That's his journey in Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. Is how is he going to handle, does he kill his father or does he redeem him? That's the struggle that Luke has. And what will become of that is how he becomes a Jedi master. Or a Sith, whatever. But yeah. Brett, you guys make a good point. Like, there's not that much more to go for, but I think that's kind of the best thing for these writers to do, because now they have a clean slate.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I made the joke a couple years back, or maybe on some of these Star Wars podcasts, that really Rian Johnson had the hardest part, which was just make a movie so great that all Colin Trevorrow, back when Colin Trevorrow was still doing Episode 9, was good, or just make it great enough to where all Trevorrow had to do was just wrap it up. That's all you had. That's the hardest, and Johnson did that. He did the hardest work, which was make a great Star Wars movie that did enough for this trilogy, did enough of the legwork so Colin Trevorrow could end it. And now that Trevorrow's gone, really Abrams now has this great opportunity of he can now end it however he wants. He can do whatever he wants with it. He can set it. Abrams could basically just say, okay, we're done with this original cast. We're going to just hire new people to play these characters that we fall in love. Like, he could really do it. I doubt that. But
well, you have contracts. I'm pretty sure that the actor signed up for a 3-movie contract for this.
Yeah, I'm saying like that's how much of a clean slate he has.
I think they're also going to do some kind of either in the opening crawl or something like that, where Leia's going to be written out of episode 9 that way.
I'm assuming they'll probably start off with her funeral. I think for episode 9, that would make sense.
Start there, yeah.
That should be the proper send off for Leia. Carey Fisher died.
Yeah, and it was really nice how they honored her in this movie.
Yeah, although actually I would say that scene of her coming back to life was a bit odd for that reason of her. They couldn't change it because it was already written and filmed, but I think that the scene where she is out in space and floats toward the ship, I don't know, it's something that feels awkward about it since Carey Fisher did die in real life. It's just kind of an odd. I'm not sure if we'd feel that way if it hadn't happened, but.
Would you have felt better if they'd killed her off in this movie?
I don't know. Well, I mean, her character is well written after she comes back, so I understand why they brought her back, but I'm not sure. It's hard to say. It could have gone either way.
Well, to be fair to them, and actually, I think it was Trevorrow that said this, like a couple months after her death. It was either Trevorrow or Kennedy said that she, that when they decided to make these 3 movies, they were, the first one was always going to be Han's story and how his story gets resolved. And then the second one was going to be about Luke and his story, yada, yada, yada. And then the third movie was always going to be about Leia, was always going to be a Leia-centric movie. On top of everything that was going to be, for the new characters, but it was going to be more Leia-centric. So I don't think they were going to, I don't think they could have killed her anyway. I don't think they could have killed her in a respectful way, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And also I think it was, Kathleen Kennedy's decision to not change anything of The Last Jedi because of her death. Because she did such a great job that they felt like if we cut anything else of her, that was, if we changed anything because of her death, not because of, the movie's sake, then it would just be, it just wouldn't be, it would be doing a disservice. So I feel like by allowing her to live and then maybe in episode 9 just start with her funeral just set it like a few years after, I think is the best approach, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yeah, I think
there's not much more. Go ahead.
I think it'd be very better to either write her off in the opening credits or start it at her funeral. I think it'd be a really good way to do that and a very good way to send that off. I think one of the most powerful scenes I've seen in episode 3 was when you saw Padme's funeral. And I think it'd be really cool if they wanted to really do something symbolic of that, if they did like a good send off with that, with they sort of mirror image her funeral with Padme. Or it'd be really cool if they found if they bury her next to Padme. I think that'd be really cool to do that too.
That could actually work, and also in that same regard, because Padme's death was in tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, it could be a peaceful, happy, not happy, but peaceful way to go out. Because poor Padme, she went out in probably the worst way you could probably think of. I mean,
it doesn't even make sense because all he does is like choke her for
it doesn't make
20 seconds, and then she comes back to life. She lost the will to live, as the robot tells us.
She lost the will.
Man, but doesn't that just show you how much better these new movies are compared to those? The writing's so much better than the prequels. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I like not even just that. The dialogue.
Yeah, the dialogue, the writing, and just a lot of stuff.
Like the writing for 1, 2, and 3 isn't terrible. It's just the way it's executed is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah,
Well, the funny thing about the writing is really awful in Phantom Menace because Red Letter Media mentioned this in their Plinkett review. It's the only movie that has no protagonist, if you think about it, because really no one takes center stage. Like Qui-Gon isn't, Obi-Wan isn't, Anakin shows up 45 minutes into the movie, and few movies have no protagonist. It's really interesting. There's no one to root for. There's no one.
Our film. It's an experimental movie.
Well,
it's a $115 million experimental movie.
It technically is an independent movie because George Lucas funded a lot of it himself. But yeah, it's a mess of a script. But yeah, they each got a bit better, but they're still bad. I don't know.
George Lucas, God bless him, he finally got to make his experimental movies.
Yeah. Yeah. And I even appreciate what he was trying to do with some of it. Like, I understand where he should have just written some books, really. I mean, if he wanted to make it about space taxes and about a Senate and a takeover, I mean, that's cool, but it should be a book and not a Star Wars movie.
I mean, if you look at the way it's sort of like they say stuff like, oh, there's no evidence of this, and this happening. This is the future, man. Like, travel. You could take a video. It does a really good thing for the trilogies, and I like how they're done. And then like they also told me that like what Anakin was kind of creepy as a character in Attack of the Clones. Like any woman today, that would have Anakin hit on them would like immediately just ghost the shit out of him and just relegate him to the friend zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what's funny is Nick, you brought that up. They have the 2 Jedi they fucking sent to fucking deal this whole tax thing, that's not even what a fucking Jedi should do.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they're peacekeepers, but still, like that's something you send an intern to do. Or an ambassador, not Jedis, but why don't you talk to them? I won't get into the prequels because people do like the prequels.
I don't hate them. I don't hate them because that is my.
I don't hate them either, but it is fun every now and then to just be like, so George, why are there Gungans in this movie? Why are the robots so easily destructible? Like, why? Anyway,
I don't hate them either, but they're almost bad in an enjoyable way. Like at this point, it's very nostalgic for me to watch them. So I know how bad they are, but yet I still kind of enjoy it somewhat. It's hard to explain. I grew up watching Phantom Menace. I saw it 5 times in the theater, and I had all the toys from Taco Bell and the soda cans from Pepsi, and it was. They're terrible. They're poorly written, but I don't know. I don't hate them, but yeah,
they're not despicable. Well, they're not the worst things ever, and I don't think they're the worst. Like even the worst one that I think is bad is still like you can still sit there and watch it. Yeah. Like I think Attack of the Clones is the weakest of all Star Wars movies.
Really, you think so?
I do.
Phantom Menace has to be the worst. I mean, just imagine the Gungan leader like shaking his head and his lips going crazy. Just imagine that, and then imagine Jar Jar Binks and the yippee and flying and just there's so much in that movie that's bad. It's.
Well, and then there's also like a bunch of people have like tried making sense of them. Yeah. Like they say like they have theories about Jar Jar being like a Sith Lord and like a couple other things in there. Like, and I could see that. Like, now, I'm not necessarily saying I agree with it. I don't think it's there now, like the way it is written. But I think just the amount of how poorly and how rushed the trilogy is, and I think that's the main problem with it. It's just how poorly rushed that the trilogy that the prequel trilogy is made. I think no care went into it. It was just George trying, and even George himself said in the first one, after he made the first one, I don't like this one, but it's too late to fix it. So that should have been a cue to him to have been like, all right, this next one, let's maybe take a couple of years off, let it stew for a minute, and then come back and kill them or knock them out of the park with episode 2.
Do you think that's
different directors? I mean,
oh yeah, that too.
I mean, Frank Darabont actually was at one point going to direct episode 2. Like Lucas was
awesome.
still writing.
I think one of the greatest decisions George ever made was having Irving Kershner direct Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
and he was kind of obligated to do that because he was building his own company and he just could not run the company and direct a movie in London at the same time.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible to re-edit the prequels into one movie? Because a lot of people have talked about doing that. Do you think it's possible to make into a good movie? Take Revenge of the Sith and make that the main movie, but then add in stuff from Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace?
I mean, you can make something better, but I mean, you still have the bad dialogue, the bad, the bad acting. I mean, you're still going to have issues with the movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just don't know how you can avoid it, if you want my opinion. But yeah. So, do we got any more thoughts on The Last Jedi?
So,
I know we've been talking Star Wars for about an hour and a half, but do you guys have any thoughts?
I think thoughts-wise, I love this. I don't see where they can go from this, but I love this movie. It was fantastic. And that it's going to be, I'm really excited to see where they go with this, but I personally can't visualize where they would start from this unless they started with Leia's funeral. That's the only thing I can really see being in the next movie. That would have to be like, but otherwise, as far as where the plot goes, there's no real, I don't see anything left to wrap up as far as like, they could have just, this should have been unless they're going to, like I said, unless they want to really hammer home the fact that they're going to destroy the First Order and make it be like the end of Return of the Jedi again. But otherwise, like, I'm excited to see where this goes on later.
Yeah, I'm really curious too because I'm assuming they're going to destroy the First Order, obviously, but it can't be like Return of the Jedi because they had that moment in Last Jedi with Snoke. So it has to be something different, which is nice, but it is. I need a giant whiteboard and a bunch of ideas on it just to kind of mix it because there's a lot of possibilities, and I'm not sure what I would write down and how I would start writing the screenplay. But
so to wrap up my portion is love it. Don't see how they could top it.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, they have a lot of thinking and working to do. And actually, I saw a story. I don't know how true it is, but I saw a story today that Abrams finally pitched like his story and outline of Episode 9 to Disney right now. Like, so they're still scripting the movie from what I can tell. Now they're scheduled for a summer start date. It's gonna be a long 2 years, but I feel okay. I don't like Last Jedi doesn't end like a cliffhanger. So or like the Force, it doesn't end the way the Force Awakens did with a cliffhanger. So I'm okay. And also in a few months we're gonna have Han Solo and
will people please stop complaining about that movie before they see it? Because I'm looking forward to it. It may not be as good as these three, but it'll probably be fun.
I did want to ask you that question real quick. I know I said I'd be done, but that question real quick, Kale, would be, what do you think about them making the decision to not make it a Christmas release?
Well, to be fair, there's still talks of them moving to Christmas because have the movie done in time because of all the production issues they've encountered. I mean, they just wrapped filming in October, so I mean, it still could be, but I mean, as of right now, it's still shooting for that Memorial Day release. I mean, the poster, the current theatrical poster that we have right now says it's going to be May 25th, 2018. So not be on Christmas. It's fine. It's just the problem is now it's going to be 19 months before you have another Star Wars movie.
And that's why it's still like that. You have people. It's not on people's minds. But I guess if you have that break, that 19-month break, you're going to have that that anticipation builds a little bit easier for the last episode of the trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
mm-hmm.
and then after you get Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, to be fair, they're attempting to do a Star Wars movie on the original May Star Wars release date anyway. They've been trying to do that. Actually, if you guys remember, Episode 8 was supposed to come out on the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. It was supposed to come out last May. And I think they changed it because they wanted more time in post. So I mean, they've been trying to do it for years. And even Episode 9 was going to be in May. So they've been trying, and I think they're still going to make the effort. It's just at first, couple of cuts that Ron Howard brings in. So we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, I think we'll wait on Han Solo, and but for now, we're gonna move on. I think we got a couple more people that want to talk about Star Wars. So, so Nick, where can the good people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Nick_Briz. You can find me on Instagram at MountainsMakethMan. You can find me on Stardust at NickFlix. One word. I just posted my my reactions to Force Awakens, or not Force Awakens, to Last Jedi on there. That's my first one there. But follow me on Stardust, please. I really want to get that going. And if I get enough people on there, I'm gonna start doing some personal reviews on my own little thing. And they're just little snippets. Really cool app. I love it. Go download Stardust.
I'll put the link in the description.
Nickflix, like Netflix, but with Nick.
All right, cool. All right, Brandon, you don't have a Twitter still?
Nope. No Twitter.
Okay. And so we're just going to move on. We'll be back with everyone, and we'll back with you listeners in just a couple seconds.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Chris Patton.
Hey, I love porgs. Buy porgs, but nothing but porgs. I love those little idiots.
And new to the show.
I want to eat one.
Chris, shut up. New to the show is Ryan Carey from Classy Gamers. Hello,
What's
Ryan.
up, guys? Porgs are a forced meme.
Yep.
They're a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, boo.
Yeah. So, starting with Ryan, what did you think of Star Wars: The Last Jedi?
All right. You're about to open the floodgates of just random thought here. Okay. Immediately after watching and during, I'm not gonna lie, I was extremely disappointed. Like during and then directly after, I was talking with my friends I saw it with, and it was really refreshing to watch a movie with some friends and not be the only person there that was digging into the movie critic side of it. Everybody agreed on the same points. I wasn't the guy ruining the movie for everybody, but I don't know. I can overlook a lot of the things that happened that I didn't like. Oh no, I didn't like it. But there was 3 or 4 things that just really I think almost broke the movie, but did not. So I still enjoyed it. I still had a lot of fun with it, but there was some major problems with it that I think need to be fixed in episode 9. That's my synopsis.
All right, Chris.
Oh, hold on. I got to open my check from Disney here. Okay.
You don't have a check from Disney.
There's enough zeros on it. All right. So I liked the porgs. I liked every time the porg was on screen and it screamed at me. I liked how I felt violated by their very presence. No, really though. I liked it. I mean, again, when it comes to Star Wars, they're 2 hours. Well, in this case, 2.5 hours. They're just 2 hours of fun adventure. People are going to blow up a person in a spaceship and go, Yahoo! Yeah, we did it. And I love the Millennium Falcon. Someone's going to ignite a lightsaber. Someone's going to say something about the Force, move some rocks around, say something meaningful, and then the credits roll. And this one sure did that. Did it a little differently, and yeah. So I'd give it a very solid. I got a very solid time out of it, and I would watch it again.
Oh my god!
Wow.
That's my thoughts.
Wow.
Kale, did you bring me on today just so I could yell at him?
Go ahead. You know what? Go ahead. Fuck it.
Dude, did you just reduce the entire Star Wars franchise to like little tiny formulaic bits? Yes, they're major Hollywood films at this point. I understand that. So there's a formula behind them. But like you can't just boil it down to something gets blown up, guys yell Yahoo, and there's a lightsaber in there.
But that's what happens.
Well,
But
yeah, you
more
can
than that.
It's way more than that.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is. I feel like most of this conversation is going to be a lot of is it really with you, or it's like that's just the way it is.
Okay, I won't do that, even though that'd be hilarious and everyone would hate me.
Yeah, it would make me hate you as well. So
Good
no,
God,
but
Chris.
all I mean by it is that I like these kinds of movies because they're just fun.
mm-hmm.
I don't really think about them.
I think
That's it. I mean, it's a Saturday morning cartoon formula.
Oh,
It's more than that.
You watch the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show, and you're like, man, I love Raphael. I'm going to buy the toy. And then you buy the toy, and then
I think that
you watch the show
applies
and you buy the
to
toys.
Episode 1 and 2. I think that applies to the prequel trilogy because that was the reason they were made. There was no reason. Like, there's a way to watch the Star Wars movies. It goes 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, 7.
Machete order.
Yeah, machete order. Like, you don't even watch number 1 because it's so unimportant to everything. The reason 1 was made was for merchandising and selling of toys. So I'm with you there.
Ever since Empire, it's been about merchandising.
I agree with that because of the Ewoks. I think Return of the Jedi was like our first step towards George Lucas getting a little bit too excited about his paychecks.
I honestly think it started with Empire, but okay.
You think it started with Empire?
No.
Yeah.
No. Why?
Because he saw the success. I mean, like, I remember, like, what was the story? He owned like all the rights to like merchandising and stuff because he didn't think the first one was going to do well, but then the first one became this huge, massive
He
success.
worked under the assumption that everything was going to fail.
Yeah. So then immediately he realizes the success and the potential, and then the toys and marketing became like huge following immediately after.
Well,
they did the
Empire-
holiday special between the first two.
Which was a gigantic mistake.
It was a
True,
massive
but
failure.
still,
He
that
understands
shows,
the failure,
like,
and he
that-
tries and he fights to make sure that no one sees it. Well, then
No,
again,
but even
not
then,
Disney owns
in-
the rights to that, so we might see it again. I don't know.
But the thing is that he makes a holiday special in between, like right after the first movie comes out and before he even releases the second film. So he's already like primed and ready to make this like a big cash cow because he realizes, oh, hey, everyone likes my dumb little movie. Let's make some all the money.
Okay.
I'm going to present a thought to you, though. George Lucas has never been a smart man, and he never will be.
No.
Because the reason, episode 4,
He kind of fell into it.
He stumbled upon success.
Yeah.
He did not earn it. Well,
It's like
the movie the first showing that he did of episode 4, everyone that he showed it to was like, you cannot do this because it is not what we got. That is not the one that we saw. His wife played a large part in it. He had people around him, like Spielberg, telling him like what was a good idea, what wasn't, because he wasn't 100% sure of himself. And there's like documentaries on this. There's tons of articles about this. You guys can go do your own research. But episodes 4 and 5, there was There's a field of people there to tell him no on certain things and help him streamline Star Wars. Episode 6 is where he started getting the reins to himself, and that's why we have Ewoks. And episode 1 is where it's technically an independent film, and that's how we have how terrible trash dumpster fire garbage the first one is. And the second one was barely better. And episode 3, some studios got a little bit better.
Episode 2 is still the worst.
Episode 2 is trash.
Oh,
but
God.
It's like it actually has some story elements to it, though. That's the only reason I even talk about it and actually have to watch it for Machete Order.
But Ryan, sand.
Coarse, irritating.
It's coarse and rough.
Everything here is soft and smooth.
Oh, God. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, let's just get into spoilers on episode 8. So
Han Solo dies.
Well, Han Solo already died. Goddamn.
And so should have Leia.
Yeah.
I have nothing but utmost respect for Carrie Fisher. She was an amazing person. But when they blew Leia into space and everybody else died, I think that it greatly cheapens the Force and turns it into a gimmick when someone can reach their hand out and force pull themselves back to a door to the sound of shooting stars. Like that, you know that meme that was this year? Like, bam, that went in my head immediately. Yeah, and I was like, it became very, like, there was, my entire theater that I was in was like.
That's what they're going to do. Someone's going to get a clean rip of that, and then that's going to reignite that.
I'm hoping I'm the first person as soon as I get it. But legit, like, there was audible, like, in the theater, like, or like, I was like, what the heck? Like, from the back, it was. Everyone was in agreement, and nobody that I've talked to, except for like the people that
I think we all know why though they did that.
Why? Well, let's hear it.
That was a last minute decision.
You think so?
Oh yeah, like I think they changed that, and no, they definitely decided to do that after she died.
No, because
they did.
But she's in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, because she would have still been in like a coma. It's just the circumstances changed. They changed that one scene. I feel like originally, like I told you that night, it would just be in a vanilla, like, TIE fighter crashes into the side of the ship. Someone, I don't know, is like, Leia, look out. And then it's like vague, like, oh no, what happened to everyone in the room? And they would have come across the rubble or whatever. And they would have been like, oh, Poe finds Leia. And then he's like, oh, it would have been the same thing where they find her. She's okay. She's in a coma. And then he would have just happened upon her, and he's like, "Oh, I found her," and she's like, "Oh, she's unconscious. Oh, but her vital signs are strong."
Okay, so you think it was they did the whole space Force thing to do everything else
to pay homage to Carrie Fisher because she's CGI in that scene, and she doesn't move. She's still making one of two poses. And then the only shot you see is her hand going up against that window, which that could have been anybody's hand.
Mm-hmm.
I
have a sneaking suspicion. No one's talked about it, but I just have this feeling that I'm right.
I mean, that's
about
pretty.
That. I'm pretty confident.
Theory there.
It's
Chris.
not. It's easy to come to the conclusion of like, oh, they wanted to make her see more like with the Force, angelic and stuff to pay homage to her. They just came up with that idea. They had enough time. She passed away a year ago, and the movie didn't come out until now, so there's plenty of time to do that 2 extra minutes of footage in CG.
Yeah,
we're using pre-existing stuff. I don't know.
Space should have died though. That's what it boils down to. Like she got blown up and thrown into space, the vacuum of space.
Yeah,
when she used the Force.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's what I hate. You can't just say they used the Force because then they made fun of people saying that when in the first in episode friggin' 7 when Finn goes, "Well, use the Force," and Han says that's not how the Force works. They make fun of that mentality, and then they use it.
Yeah. Because it's a movie where people pew pew and scream and then they yell when they blow up an innocent fighter pilot.
But the thing is that Ryan's trying to say is, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Force doesn't work. It can't.
I just want to buy the action figure of Carrie Fisher as General Leia, where she's like frozen with her hand sticking out and like covered in like frozen space crystal, whatever. Like just her action figure.
Oh yeah, because that's respectful in every conceivable way.
They'd sell it. They don't care.
So yeah, I don't really hear because I'm still trying to figure out the logic of that. Because even if you are thrown in space, it's still you're everything's gonna freeze. Everything it's
Yeah,
the vacuum of space will even if you
Space fantasy, not science fiction. Space fantasy.
but still
It's a fantasy set in space.
even Star Wars laid out ground rules of how the Force works.
Yeah.
No, they don't. They just say it's a mysterious force that binds everything together. That's about as vague as you can get.
But
There are no rules.
But it's not told to you, but the rules are shown to you throughout the whole original trilogy.
Oh, like, hey, spoilers, what that one character does at the end that's no one had ever done before. Is that part of the rule set?
What are you talking about?
Oh,
The thing the character does at the end, the
Luke.
projection,
Oh, that's
that's never been done before.
the canon of the universe.
What?
That's extended universe stuff. Yeah, that's canon.
Like old stuff that got decanonized or the new canon?
Old and it's new. They've used it in the Clone Wars cartoons.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing that
That
happens.
is a thing.
Those don't count.
E-
Only the movies count.
Okay. We're gonna be on this way too long. So, what other thoughts did Ryan?
I don't understand the casino planet.
Oh yeah, I don't either.
Okay, here it.
It's good. It's fine for what it's doing.
It's fine for
I
what
don't
it's.
get it.
Here's the deal. At the beginning of the movie, we start a slow speed chase between the First Order fleet and the rebels trying to escape. And it is a slow speed chase that drags on for roughly an hour, 15, hour, 30 minutes until the actual main people arrive, which is Rey and Kylo. And then they send off the other important characters to go do something on this casino planet that actually ends up not mattering in the end. So we have effectively an hour and 15 minutes, or hour and 30 minutes of Star Wars highly regulated fan fiction filler that doesn't matter. And it's here's my proposal.
You say fan fiction, but Poe and Finn didn't get together, so it's not really true fan fiction.
Oh, shut up!
I say fan fiction because nothing mattered. Nothing they did mattered because everything got retconned at the end. It was like, oh, well, we had a plan all along that we didn't tell you for no explainable reason. But here, think about this. Instead of having them run from the very beginning, why not have had training sequence with Rey paralleled with training and talking to Snoke with Kylo for the first quarter of the movie or first third, and then have them come out a little bit and start going towards their respective sides. So First Order and the Rebels, and then they start having to run, and everyone meets up at the same time instead of having to watch a slow speed chase that was honestly not all that interesting.
Well, it's funny. The only reason it feels so long is because it's one of three things you're cutting around. Like if you watch just that back to back to back, I bet it's only like 10 minutes.
Oh, that whole chase? But
I feel like it's only 10 minutes long, which is the problem because I can't hear you.
Oh, are we
Yeah, you're fine.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
You just disappeared for a second.
It's like, but the fact is, that chase ultimately ends 20 minutes before the end of the film, and it starts at the very beginning. I think, if you're sitting there for 2.5 hours, which is what you are doing, you're sitting there like, this is miserable.
The second time I saw the movie, it did not feel as long.
Okay.
I just said that was my thing. I still get I agree, but the second time around, I felt like it was shorter than it felt before.
Well, to your point, Ryan, I think the reason why they did this whole B plot to only have him fail is because the whole moral of the movie is
because Empire did it.
No. Wait, what? No.
Because it's Empire.
Okay, sure, but hear me out, Chris.
Not structured in the same way as Empire at all.
Yeah, it's
but it does all the same things. Just like Force Awakens, they just did the same thing again.
Give or take. I mean, it really is. There's things in there, but it's more of a combination of Empire and Return. But here's my,
because let's copy Return of the Jedi.
Okay, here's the reason why they have to go to the casino in order for them to all fail is because that's what the whole movie is about. Is
They need to
Poe
pick
has
up their
to learn-
Benicio del Toro cameo and then have him disappear.
Chris, they have to learn how to fail in order to basically move on. They have to be beaten in order to
I feel like
be
having
reborn.
their entire civilization destroyed in the first episode is a pretty good example of what it's like to fail.
Yeah.
Well, sure, but I think that's
That's actually one of the things I really liked about this movie is that at the end of Force Awakens, you see like their space station gets blown up and the resistance is like down to like maybe 1,000 people, and you feel like in the Republic planet got blown up, and I'm like, man, it's like a huge power vacuum now because all these resources the First Order had is just completely gone. Because you don't set up a base on a planet and not like make a big base out of it. So they lost a lot of time, money, and resources. So they're pretty flat broke after they put all their money into that stupid planet thing.
much like the Resistance is.
Yeah. And so I thought they were already at this low point. And so now it's like Last Jedi even continues that even more, where like at the very end, they're on the Red Salt planet. They're like, we got 30 people left on our side, and you guys got maybe like 100, maybe, but you've got more firepower, but like that's all you guys got left. And I like that. I liked how it was like they were like, we literally, this is all we got left. We have nothing else. Everything just got blown up by Laura Dern.
Which is a great scene. It's a great scene that it's clumsy in how it's all edited together because the editing kind of suggests that she waits, but really, to be honest, it could have been, once she started seeing that her plan wasn't working, she could have immediately started trying to get everything together. But yeah, I think it's a really great scene that it happens, and it's beautifully well done. How it's she just zooms in and it blows everything in distance away. So personally, but overall, I mean, so let me ask this: what did we think of Luke Skywalker? Trying to, get to the next plot here.
I want to be careful with when I say here because Luke Skywalker is very different from the Luke Skywalker that we got in the original movies, but also he's also way older. He's been through a lot more, so like it makes
30 years
to have changed.
There's 30 years of comics and novels and cartoons and lunchboxes for Disney to make about it.
Hey.
Those don't count though.
Let's stick with this movie.
Your logic. But like to be fair, this is a person that has been through like 30, 40 years of experience. So like naturally this person would change and we would see a different person. But I also feel like if we're trying to stay true to the Luke Skywalker source material, we should have had someone that was a lot more level-headed than we got. Someone that was a lot less emotionally driven. Because like at the end of Return, Luke had pretty much like he had taken on the Jedi mantle pretty well. Other than when he like struck back against Palpatine, and then even that point, he throws away his lightsaber, doesn't want to fight. Like he's definitely returning to his like pacifist form. We never saw him strike his lightsaber, which I thought was really cool. I enjoyed that. So we have more of like a Yoda character that's not quite as great.
Just like Empire.
Yeah, but he's like a Yoda character in the pacifism, but he's not Yoda in any way. Yoda,
no, he just talks to him.
Yeah. Well, no. Yoda is literally like the epitome of like the wisdom of the Force. He's been there for hundreds of years. He has a lot of experience. He's a pacifist. And pretty much everything he says, he has such a good understanding of the Force and everything that works through it that like he can be pretty confident that what he's saying is true.
I just like how that moment when Yoda just makes the lightning strike the tree and he just starts laughing like a madman. And he's I was fully embracing a Yoda that was going to be like, yeah, I don't care anymore. I'm just messing with everybody.
I liked that they actually went back to using a puppet too.
Yeah,
it is. It's off-putting at first because it just doesn't. Because we know what the prequel Yodas look like, and we've been kind of
screw that Yoda.
Yeah,
he fought. That's against everything that Yoda stands for.
Sure, but it just that was the last time we've seen Yoda in that ever. So
well, it just proves that practical and visual like CGI effects can both look equally fake.
But I still buy this puppet Yoda. Yeah, as the scene was progressing.
But I know he's a puppet. But I know when Yoda's a puppet.
You buy it when it's a character, Chris.
No, I buy it because he's a puppet. I could literally go to Target and buy that puppet.
Hey, Chris.
Dear God,
I
you
saw
are
the
caught
price
up in
tag.
the mechanisms of
With-
everything.
I
all
saw
due
I saw
respect,
the
Chris.
price tag. I saw the price tag on them.
With all due respect, you are the worst kind of person.
Thanks.
Wanted to let you-
Thanks. I know. Because I got to bring everyone back to reality. This is just a big machine
no.
now.
I feel like you're more desiring to bring people onto your plane of thought.
Oh
Which
no,
is-
you guys need to stay far away from me.
Dude,
Like you
reality
guys can
sucks.
still. Yeah, I know.
Why do you want to bring us back?
I'm like the guy like looking through the chain link fence, everybody enjoying Six Flags, and I'm like, yeah, but they're a bunch of corporate like people, and it costs too much. But everyone's having too much fun on the roller coaster to care, and I'm like, but no, you're not supposed to enjoy it.
Okay, let's get back.
I'm the
Okay.
wrong one.
So I really did enjoy this movie, even though Chris is ruining it, even trying to get us back to reality. but Ryan, what did you enjoy of?
I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, that scene with Kylo and Rey in the throne room was probably one of my favorite scenes of Star Wars. I very much. I'm very disappointed the fact that we don't. Snoke ends up just being Snoke. I really wanted him to be someone from the extended universe, but so
Hashtag Snoke is a joke.
Yeah. He ends up like not really feeling that important in the grand scheme of things. Other than he's just like
because he really wasn't.
Charge. But so I really enjoyed that fight scene with the Royal Guard. I really enjoyed the dynamic between Kylo and Rey during that entire scene, and how like they're going up the elevator, like, oh, you're gonna turn in the end. It's like, well, I think you're the one that's gonna turn.
It's like, no, you.
And then neither of them do, but maybe that's a foreshadowing to eventually both of them will in the next one. I don't know.
No.
I don't think so. I think they're both pretty solidified now. I was kind of scared about Rey at first, though. They did I could tell they're trying to do misleading crap, though. But I don't know. That was one of my favorite scenes. I really enjoyed the hyperspace jump through the First Order fleet. That was freaking dope. That's something we haven't seen before, and like. It was cool. I really enjoyed it. And like that was a really strong use of silence. I think people don't use silence enough in films. Everyone's too obsessed with like doing an overblown score. But like there's a couple scenes that I can think of recently in like major films, like in Civil War when it's Iron Man, Bucky, and Captain fighting. Like there's no score. It's just the sound effects of them beating the snot out of each other. And then it's so much more powerful because of that. And then it's the same thing with her doing the hyperspace jump through the entire fleet. And The Walking Dead uses silence very well. It's just, in general, I really enjoyed that. You don't see it a lot in Hollywood, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, they use silence very well. Like the zombies just creep up on everybody, and like they couldn't smell or hear them walking up and about to
No,
eat
I mean
them.
like I'm saying like no score.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just saying that always pissed me off about Walking Dead was just the whole like, how did they sneak up on you? They just stood out from behind a tree. I would have smelled that decaying body from a mile
Watching way
away.
Too much YMS.
YMS is strong though, dude. The comic.
No, I was like this way before I even watched. This is how I've always perceived movies. Like to understand my viewpoint, I understand the reality, but I can still enjoy the fun ride. I'm just being extra cynical because the lulz or whatever kids say these days.
What?
I don't know, dude.
What I mean.
What are you talking about?
The lulz, it's an old thing people would do in the internet, and I'm making reference to it like it's a kid thing, but that's like an older thing, and people probably moved on to fidget spinners or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
God, the internet's not that old.
Go out of touch.
Oh, hey, internet time is like moves way faster. It's
does.
like it's Interstellar. Like he's there for 20 minutes of the movie, and his daughter gets 20 years older. That's how the internet works.
That's fair. It's like YouTube trying to make a in touch and relevant YouTube rewind. It's embarrassing.
Oh, I never watched those.
That's embarrassing. You should just to laugh at it. It's terrible.
Oh. Well, so I want to just
Back
get
to
the
money.
ending. Yeah. I want to get to the ending here. So we mentioned the whole Luke fight, which I think is incredible. I thought it was a really good scene, and Luke just played the whole First Order. Like he just played everyone. But
I honestly was expecting it to become like Force Unleashed and like
Stop all
like
and shoot him back.
Yeah, like a quick time event would have popped up. Like, Like mash X to like bring down one of the tank things.
Yeah, well, I mean,
The
like
walkers.
comic Luke, like extended universe Luke, was like the most powerful Jedi ever, and he could have like stopped those lasers and shot them back. So I was almost like, "Yo, are they about to throw this back to way too strong Luke after making him a pansy the entire movie?"
Yeah,
I kind of appreciate what they actually did instead.
I do.
it's a really good trick, and they got away. So
Although I did like how the imagery of him standing up against them was a callback to him saying, like, he's like, "What do you expect me to do? Face off against the entire First Order on my own?" And that's exactly what he does.
Exactly what he did.
almost.
Well, he literally faced at them.
In a forced projection.
Well, still,
Yeah.
like it's the imagery of it.
Okay.
He still saw it. Like he literally looked at them. So yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I just truly thought of that, or really like the part about the ending is, when he's dying, he's looking at one sun, as it's like, because it's a reference to in A New Hope, he's looking at two suns, and now the sun is together, and he's looking at it, and now he's whole, and now he can finally die in peace, and it's just a great little bit.
Don't you mean become one with the Force?
Yeah, he becomes one with the Force.
I thought the imagery was one sun was behind shadow, but the other one was rising.
No, the suns looked almost the exact same from New Hope.
Oh no, I know, but I saw the imagery of like one was setting and the other one was rising.
Oh.
Because you only see the one first, and the one is setting.
I see what you're
behind
saying.
the clouds.
Okay.
And he looks at that one, but then the music swells, and then he looks at the other one, and that one starts to rise, and it's higher than the one behind the clouds.
Okay. That's all right.
Get it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll buy into this logic.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they meant by that.
Okay, Chris. It's okay. All right. What else? So
I want to die.
what?
Oh, nothing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Keep going.
So what do we? So
Here's
what
a
do we think
Darth
of
Vader
episode-
waffle maker.
Oh, shut
You guys
up!
want this Darth Vader waffle maker?
You wonder why I keep cutting you off. So what do we think of where episode 9 could go? Because really, a lot of stuff got tied up that was, started in Force Awakens. So where could this go?
I don't know. I
Now.
don't care.
Of course, you don't, Ryan.
Well, I personally would like to see Rey communing with some Force ghosts. That's just my nerddom wanting it to happen. I don't know. They did wrap a lot up. I think it's going to be kind of what Chris was saying a minute ago. It's going to be kind of like the last-ditch efforts of both sides to see who eventually prevails. And
Oh
with
no,
both-
there's going to be a time skip, and they'll be like bulked up again, and they've got like 100,000 people on either side.
Well, what I would like is a small time skip, and then being like last-ditch efforts. I wouldn't mind seeing less planets, just like having just two places to go, two settings, less going on, because I understand that that's like the Star Wars thing to do, to move between 7 planets in one movie. I'm looking at you, Attack of the Clones, and no one, and they say the name of the planet one time, and it's like, oh, they're radically different because this one's a stormy planet, and this one's red and has rocks, and this one's green. Good job.
Oh,
studio.
so now you get to be the cynical one.
Dude, episode 2 sucks. As a movie, as an idea, it's terrible.
Did you say? Oh, never mind. Never mind.
The worst.
But what I would like
I love this
is,
podcast.
what do you say?
I love this podcast.
God help me.
I would like to kind of return to Empire Return, where if there are multiple planets, it's only 2 things at a time. The settings stay pretty straightforward. Everyone starts off on one planet. Maybe they split off with 2, but we can succinctly focus on what's going on the 2 and not worry about 30 things going on. I feel like we see a
Can
little bit.
Poe and Finn actually do something together for more than 2 minutes?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Please.
They act like they're best friends every time they see each other. But if we look at this, if this came out right after Force Awakens and timeline wise, they've been in the same exact place for 30 minutes.
Yeah, the entirety of The Force Awakens and this movie combined happens in like 2 days, I think. Because if assuming light speed means you're teleporting, that takes no time at all. So it's like, yeah, maybe 3 days at most. Because the movie begins, we start with the long, like, please hold for Hux, and then the bombing sequence and all that. But then we cut to Rey. So with 2 seconds after we see her at the end, so we assume that like the time between Rey leaving and then arriving, all of that happened. So that's only been like a few hours because they retaliated right after Starkiller blew up. So it's only been 3 days.
Yeah,
I guess, sure. I mean, they were
I don't know how time works.
I mean, they were on Luke's planet for at least a couple weeks.
I guess I'll be right.
Okay, yeah, because there's like night and day stuff. I forgot, yeah. But again, like it's always night when they're in Canto Bight. So I don't even know how they factor in like time and rotations of planets and stuff. See what I mean? They don't care about the science fiction. They only care about the the space fantasy. So it's like you're not supposed to think about it.
All right.
So after I derailed this entire podcast, let's just edit.
Chris.
Hey, Kale, let's edit out like the last like 30 minutes. Like, just make
this whole section.
Edit. Hey, Kale, edit me out of the podcast.
That's gonna be impossible.
Yeah, no, it's not. I'll do it for you. I can easily edit myself out of stuff. Like I'm superb at editing myself out of stuff. I know when I'm not having fun.
You're a cynic.
I know when I'm ruining the fun.
You're a cynic.
Only when I want to be.
Whatever. All right, so I think we've talked enough out of this segment. Ryan, where can the good people find you?
Wait, what was the segment?
Just us talking.
We rambled.
It's just a podcast. That's just the segment.
So do we like the movie or not?
Chris, what?
Hearing anything that I have to say, or like me, or hate me, or want to go and make my life miserable by disliking all my videos, you can find me on Classic Gamers on YouTube. Plug. That's it.
I'll put the link in the description below.
Appreciate it.
All right, and Chris, where can people complain to you about being cynical?
You can come over to my house. I'll talk your ear off all day.
Oh God! No,
I'll make you some waffles with my R2D2 waffle maker, and
Jesus,
I don't know. I ran out of stuff to say. You can find me. I'm a semi-permanent guest here at the podcast. What is it called again?
The Youth Critic.
The Youth Critic Podcast. Here with Kale, where we talk about Star Wars all day, every day.
All right, so
because we love Star Wars, and I can't wait for all the Star Wars movies to come out for every year from here on out.
All right.
Hold on, I got to open up this second paycheck from Disney.
No. You can find him at Patton 94.
Yeah, that's it.
And we will be back in just a second.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
It does now. Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
Welcome back, listeners, to the Youth Critic Podcast. I am joined by Joseph Pawlak.
Hello.
And Patrick Campbell from Real Film Chatter.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Let's talk some Space Wars.
Yep. And so starting with you, Patrick, what did you think of Star Wars The Last Jedi?
So Star Wars The Last Jedi was a movie that I was not expecting. And I've seen it twice now because I didn't want to react until I'd seen it the second time. I really love this movie. I think that it takes a lot of risks and a lot of chances that are very gutsy. I think that it is exactly the movie that this franchise needed right now, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where the story goes from here.
Joseph?
I have a opposing view. I have to say this before anyone just like kills me, is I love Star Wars. I love everything Star Wars, and if you saw my office, it's nothing but Star Wars. However, I think The Last Jedi is one of the most disappointing films of the franchise to this day, and I have a lot of reasons why, and we'll get to that, I'm sure.
And
so I have to ask you real quick though.
Okay.
Oh no, Cal, go ahead, Cal.
Oh, and I was just gonna say, I also love the movie. I do have one nitpick or a couple nitpick flaws, but other than that, I thought it was a near perfect film. I have not seen it twice yet, so I have not been able to get everything yet. But Patrick, go ahead.
I wanted to ask about your problems with the movie and its disappointment level. Is it a disappointment because it wasn't the movie that you wanted it to be, or is it disappointment in the movie that it is?
See, I went in the first time. I saw it twice. I saw it on Friday and I saw it on Sunday. And I plan on seeing it again on next weekend, only to see if maybe like multiple views will change my opinion of it. But as of right now,
okay,
a lot of it is film, that like not the story itself, but the film creation process. I was talking to Kale and I was letting him know, like, I rated it 2 different ways and I averaged the 2 together. So story-wise, I'm looking at a 7-8 out of 10, easy. Film and film creation process, 4, maybe 5 out of 10. So most of my problem is Ryan Johnson and maybe even the writers a little bit.
Well, Ryan was the writer, yeah.
Well, I thought there was multiple attached. Maybe I'm wrong about that,
No.
but I feel like Ryan Johnson did not have a clear understanding of the lore, and
I would beg to differ.
I would too.
I was gonna. He's
just
going back to what Lucas originally wrote, and that's what's interesting is that he seems to understand the lore better than anyone. Going back to Lucas's original treatments,
there's a lot of problems and a lot of spoilers and stuff that I wanted to get into that I think is a problem with the film itself. And it's a lot of stuff. Like, for instance, Kelly, you wanted to go?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Oh my gosh. The Leia thing is one of my biggest story lore problems of the entire movie. Is as far as today, canon wise, from what I know, is she doesn't know how to use the Force. She has the Force.
That's not completely accurate because in the canon novels, she's starting to learn the Force.
She started to learn the Force, but to the degree where
wait. Is this old EU or new EU?
No, new in Bloodlines.
Okay.
My biggest problem was she used it to such a degree. Not only did she save herself, but she glided through space. Which, I mean, with physics of space, I understand a little bit of force can propel you to the door, but there was no emergency shielding for the room. So she knocked on the door, opened the door, no space vacuum. She was able to come in, and then what would take Luke for his hand months of recuperation between 2 films, it took her, the vacuum of space, all of 2 hours. I mean, you got to remember that the film itself was in a span of 24 or 48 hours.
Oh, less than that.
Less than a day.
Less
than a day. And not only did she survive the vacuum of space, but she was up and at it within hours.
I would argue that was because of Luke. Because she wouldn't have woken up if Luke hadn't actually reached out to her. That's what causes her to wake up in the movie. Luke is trying to reach out to her through the Force.
Luke is checking on her, like,
and that's when she finally wakes up.
Because remember how he cut himself off from the Force, and then he was, after everything with Rey, he wanted to check on her, so he went to the stool and the rock outside and actually checked in on his sister, and that's when she was like,
okay,
yeah, and that's what pushes her back. I guarantee that plays a part in it. There's no way that she just is better if Luke doesn't reach out to her.
Well, yeah. And that was the biggest lore story thing that I didn't like. One of the from the beginning 5 minutes of the film creation process problem I had was the cheesiness of Admiral Hux. His conversation with Poe was cheesy. The Force joke was cheesy. They tried too hard to replace. I'm sorry, but I didn't get that kind of character development from The Force Awakens for Poe. So I didn't. When I saw that, I was like, okay, that's too far.
The humor is his very first line is to Kylo in Force Awakens is, who talks first? I talk first. You talk first. He's very humorous.
It's a Joss Whedon thing, but yeah,
I thought it was too much. Like,
I can understand where you're coming from. That there is a few moments of too much humor, but I would argue that if any one character should be, it should be Poe.
Okay.
And as for Hux, the reason it works with Hux is you're supposed to realize, just like Kylo, Hux is not a good leader. Yeah. He undermines himself by thinking he's so much better than everyone else, which is why his whole like being so serious and having Poe, the fact that he falls for everything and Poe screws with him so bad that he can't see what's coming is a flaw within himself.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that, but I think the joke itself was out of place. It was forced. I felt it forced, and they tried too hard on making it work. And then the whole sequence with the solo starfighter for a dreadnought with 1,000 laser turrets, he takes out the perfect 10 for the bombing run, which then meant like the entire bombing squadron dies off into the last one. That causes a Memphis Belle situation that has no shielding because it's partially damaged, and she can survive the vacuum of space lying on her back trying to kick that thing, the button to release the bombs out of nowhere. Like, that was just poor execution and poor planning.
Wait, are we talking about the opening of the movie?
I think you're.
Yeah. And I might be going overboard with it, but there was a lot to that did not make sense to me.
Yeah.
I think you're going a little too far into the script. Like, it's a space fantasy movie. There's a lot of stuff in this whole series that's been like that.
I understand that, but what I was missing from George Lucas' time was everything had a reason. And as far as I can tell, when I watched the movie Last Jedi, a lot of the plot points from The Force Awakens was gone, whereas the originals built off each other, and I didn't feel that way for this movie, and that might be my problem. Is I
think that you're looking at it the wrong way, because I think that this movie completely built off The Force Awakens, but it was also going to a place, and I think that this is a schism that's happening between the fans and this movie, is that Ryan's whole idea of coming in was going, this series cannot continue to be the series that we know. In any way, shape, or form, we have to try to reinvent the franchise, and we have to understand that what happened in the past happened, and some of what happened in the past was wrong, and the Jedi were wrong, and we made mistakes. And our heroes can be flawed. Our heroes make mistakes, and sometimes it's okay to burn down what you know, to start fresh and bring a new perspective to it.
But at what cost? Does it at the cost of breaking all the pre-established rules of the previous series? Like, for instance, not once has it come to fruition that a Force ghost can make physical contact with the
That was a Lucas thing, and they brought that back.
Okay,
because that's from the EU. So again,
okay.
I would argue that this is things that I understand, but if any of the other stuff that the Jedi had done before, like go back to Phantom Menace, the super speed at the beginning of the movie, that's never explained. We never think about it again. No, but legitimately, like if we're going to be talking about this, semantics about the whole thing, that's never explained to us again.
Yeah,
it just happens. The Jedi can do things, and with Luke isolating himself for so long, we guarantee he's learned new things. And I think that that's the beauty of what Ryan did, is that Ryan tried to go, look, there's things from the EU that work. There's things that Lucas's old treatment said that worked. Why don't we try to take all of that, do something new? Let's burn the Jedi Order to the ground and start over. Especially because in and of itself, we all admit that the Jedi Order fucked up in the prequels.
Well, they were all under the influence of Palpatine, which is the reason.
Yeah, but they let Palpatine rise to power. I mean, they were so bent on making sure that Anakin wasn't trained, and they were so scared of Anakin, they didn't pay attention to what was going on around them.
Yeah.
And I think that when you see that, and then you see in this movie, Luke went to the same place, and he didn't learn from those mistakes. And that moment, it took one moment for Luke to have that hesitation, for Kylo to see that hesitation, and it destroys everything. If that one single moment hadn't happened, history in the universe may be different. And I think that that's why what Ryan does is so interesting. Yeah, again, I agree that there might be a little too much humor at times, But I think what Ryan did was gutsy enough that he goes, they screwed up and we have to burn this to the ground. Because if we don't, we are destined to repeat this over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. As Yoda has seen twice now, evil rise back into form. And
right.
That's the whole idea of that's the whole idea of this new trilogy is the past generation did not do complete justice for the new generation. So now we're going to have to like rebuild everything. We're going to have to basically rebuild the wheel.
It's almost like Ryan was making social commentary on the things happening right now in the world.
And that's not always a good thing. Like for instance, you say that with established things that are going on in the world right now. The entire filler, and I will define it as a filler arc, with when they went to the casino to get the master code breaker and the entire PC of Release the Animals. That the entire plot line didn't do anything. Again, this is from me. Didn't do anything to progress the story. It could have been completely taken out.
No, but I would say that I don't love the Canto Bite stuff, but I think you're wrong saying it doesn't take anything forward, because that moment is, one, it's important for the audience because it takes the audience to where the galaxy is now and seeing the fact that people are selling out to the First Order in the wake of the Republic's destruction. And two, it also opens up to what we see at the end of the movie when Rose tells Finn, it's not about the battles and the things that we are going to lose and the battles we win. It's the people that we save and the things we love that we save. That is the only thing that is going to save the galaxy.
But she sacrifices herself to save him.
She's not dead yet.
No,
she's not dead.
Right. She's not dead. But she essentially tells Finn that you can't sacrifice yourself like that. But she sacrifices herself. But she does it herself
because she's saying it's because you need to save the things that we love. She had to save him,
not
because he was going to kill himself
to save the rebellion.
Yeah,
so it's the same outcome.
But Finn is doing this out of hate, out of revenge. He's making a collective moment to
try to overcome what created it.
Yes, not necessarily. I mean, you can't. I mean, some of it probably is to destroy or to save the rebellion or the resistance, whatever you want to call this now. But it is primarily a decision of hate, a decision of I'm going to do this out of revenge to destroy the thing that has created me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to destroy the institution that created him.
Even after the second viewing, I didn't catch that. Like, I felt like, all right, he's doing this for the right reason, but
no, because I mean, there's the moment where he even stands up to Phasma, and she's like, you never amounted to anything anyway, and you've always been scum, like that's, and he kills her. But this is his chance to overcome everything else, because going back to the Force Awakens, he couldn't be the thing that they wanted him to be. So that thing that they created was the thing that could destroy them, and that's how he saw it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But to your point, the Cantobite, is it Cantobite?
Cantobite.
Yeah, Cantobite.
The whole, I'm calling it subplot C, or plot C in this movie. The only reason to have that happen is so Poe as a character, and really the other two characters as well, is they learn to fail. Like, that is the ultimate reason you have that in there, is so they can learn how to, it does. Because the whole thing with Poe at the beginning of the movie is he basically disobeys Leia in order to destroy
and cost them everyone.
And cost them a great deal of soldiers. But
that seemed like the continuing like theme of the movie, though, was disappointment all around.
And that's why it's so important, because one thing that I think that I think this kind of plays into things that we see in our real lives. And I would ask you guys, you've probably seen the same thing, is that a lot of the times now we're never taught what it means to fail, and that failure is okay if you can overcome failure. And I think that that's why it's so important that in this movie, everything is about the idea that they can fail, but what they do to overcome that. Especially in the of Luke, who was supposed to be restarting the Jedi Order, and his failure bringing the rise of the First Order and losing Kylo to it. And I think that that's very important moving forward, because Rey will learn, theoretically,
Hopefully.
that even if she does fail, say with Broom Kid at the end of the movie, is that she can actually try to save him, because the one thing she saw that Luke didn't was that he may have failed Kylo, but you can still try to turn him. Now, obviously, Kylo is beyond that at this point, but it's important, in my opinion, that she sees that the abstract failure does not mean that it can't be right.
Right. And that's the whole idea of the movie is, and that's why I kind of think this movie it's so bold, because it's, you know, it's a movie for this whole trilogy is meant for millennials. It's meant for this generation. It's not meant for the Gen Xers or the baby boomer generation. It's meant for our generation, and to basically tell the millennial generation, hey, it's okay to fail. It's
because we've been told not to.
Yeah, we've been told if we fail, it'll be end all be all. And that's what causes, meltdowns.
The point I was making about the disappointment for like a theme for the movie, I mean, Force Awakens, and I think this is a lot of changing directors between movies. It also changes directions, because I think the saga or the new trilogy is basically loss of vision. And I see after you guys explaining it to me a little bit more, I can see where you're saying that the disappointment and it's okay to feel. I see it now in the movie. But there's a lot of things that I felt like was, I hate to say this, was owed to us after the Force Awakens, like questions answered that ended up not being answered.
I think that's the point of the movie.
Theme is disappointment. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Because I tried to go in a clean slate, but I was like thinking to myself, okay, who are all these people? Snoke didn't matter. Who was Phantasma? That didn't matter in the movies. I mean, she had an entire saga, like a book, but she didn't really matter in the movies. Rey didn't matter in the movies because she comes from nobody. I mean,
the good thing about that, though, and I think that unhandcuffs the series from the fact, like, remember the first time we met Luke, we thought he was just anyone else. We didn't know he was the son of Anakin Skywalker.
Right.
And I think that we uncuff ourselves from the idea that there's a magic bloodline at this point that has to save the universe. And I think that when you see Broom Kid at the end of the movie, that is forever what he's going to be to me. I don't care what they name him. His name is always going to be Broom Kid.
But with the prequels and the original trilogy explaining the way that things are, you said something along the lines of, or they explained along the lines of, the destiny of Anakin and the destiny of Luke is because of their power in the Force, or their intuitiveness or intuition of the Force. And suddenly you have Rey, who's born out of nobody, is more powerful than all of them.
But Anakin was born out of nothing.
Right.
And that we forget that, like, that was the whole thing, and is that
that was the whole thing.
Was Jesus.
He was
he was space Jesus.
He was space Jesus for Star Wars. I understand that, but there was a predetermined destiny for him where he came from nobody. He was determined to save. He was supposed to save the Force, to reestablish the balance,
and he does.
He does. But that's what I'm saying is he might be born out of nobody, but he had a predetermined destiny to rebalance the Force. Rey is not that.
No, and I think that that's the point, is that they're trying to move away from that, because the whole idea is that, like Luke says, how crazy is it that the Jedi were like, the power only belonged to them? Everyone is a part of the Force anyway. And the idea that maybe it's not just a magic bloodline. Like, we know that there was other Force users. Clearly not everyone in the Jedi Order was, part of a magic bloodline.
Yeah.
So everyone had to come from somewhere. And I think that by uncuffing the idea of it has to be a Skywalker saga opens us up to the idea that we can have more heroes. And I mean, even to an extent, the EU did the same thing, because there was a lot more heroes outside of the ones that we knew and loved. I mean, obviously there was Jason and Jaina and like all of the Luke's kids and Han and Leia's kids and stuff, but
who are not even introduced. So
In the EU.
Well,
Now
the EU, you're right.
Yeah, we're kind of going away from the EU.
Yeah.
And I think we're moving away from everything, and I think that's okay. I think it's ballsy to kind of sit down and go, I think that what we need to do is take this series, kind of take it back to its roots, but go dramatically in a different direction. And in a way, this movie is the closing chapter of a trilogy. And I think that's what's so interesting is we went from the opening chapter to the closing chapter, which leaves us in this new territory where all of us are going, where do you go? And I think that's crazy. I think that's exciting. I think that's a big reason why JJ wanted to come back is he saw the idea, like obviously he produced this one too, and he helped Ryan with a lot of the story beats, but to take it now, where do you go? It's just fascinating.
But just like the speculations for all the questions that Force Awakens brought up.
Everything okay, Patrick?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Okay,
cool.
Just like the speculations from all the questions after the Force Awakens, most of this is speculation as like this was planned. The questions and the theme of disappointment was planned. I haven't heard anything saying this is what they wanted to do yet, and I think with
what Ryan wanted to do. I think to defend Ryan and Kathleen, I think this is what they wanted to do anyway.
And I mean, Abrams helped with the script in story points. He didn't write anything, but he and Ryan sat down and like worked on stuff together. And when everything kind of came back around with the fact that he ended up with the third film anyway, I think that knowing obviously that he had put in place certain things, there was a trajectory. It was just a matter of the pieces coming together in the way they did the trajectory, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, but I mean, there's a lot of still questions when you say the writing and the story points and stuff. There's a lot of questions that are big to ask as far as like ability. For instance, like I said, Leia, I mean, in the EU, she trained, but I didn't know she was powerful enough to save herself from space. The same with Rey.
You know, okay, I'm going to just set the record straight. Let's just all agree that was probably the worst decision of this movie. Can we all agree on that?
Yes.
I would say yes, but at the same time, because I've been reading the newer novels, the ones that are like Ryan helped oversee Bloodlines, which was the Leia book that came out last year. And so there is stuff with her, like it's set 6 years before The Force Awakens. So
but
I would say
outside people who actually read the EU universe, like that stuff, if you just took it straight from the movies and
exactly. And which is kind of what I was going to say is it's frustrating I get from people not watching, for people that aren't reading the books and only watching the movies. I don't know how well,
because there's not a lot of explanation. Like this whole thing, I mean, this issue would have been averted if when Leia got out of the coma, Force blew open the door, and Poe just said, "Well, that training with Luke before he became general."
I think we're assuming she Force blew open the door.
She did. It's absolutely.
All right. Yeah.
I saw the second time just to be sure, but she Force blew open that door. If Poe at the moment just looked in surprise and looked at her and said, "Well, that training with Luke before he became general is like working off," or just something in that, like as a joke. That point would have been a good joke.
Well, that's also assuming that he would have known that Luke had trained her. But I mean, we also have to assume that she's strong enough in the Force that Kylo is as strong as he is.
I agree, but there's also no explanation to
that. To be fair to Johnson, even if you go back to the original trilogy, Luke uses the Force to contact Leia, who also
exactly
to get him out of Cloud City. So,
and it was more of a feeling, less contact.
But it led right to
It was a Force homing beacon. That's how I look.
Well, at it. Even Return of the Jedi, she knows that Luke survives the Death Star destruction and all of that as well.
So yeah, I mean, we know the Force is within her, and I think even is when Yoda in Empire says, there is another hope after Obi-Wan says he was our last hope. When Yoda says that, was he referring to Leia? If I'm correct,
he was. So originally, no, he wasn't, but yes, now he is.
Okay.
But the problem is ability, and that's where I was getting at, because following up with Leia's unexplained abilities in the Force, if you're not reading the books, was Rey. Okay, there was definite dark side influence in the Force Awakens before she just calmed herself down and started fighting correctly, and then suddenly you fast forward what could have been a span of a week to a month or whatever, and she's training with Luke. One meditation, one look into a dark side mirror, and suddenly she has the fighting capability of Mace Windu.
I wouldn't go that far.
I mean, I'm being.
I would say that because you have to remember, and this is the same thing that we talked about when The Force Awakens came out, and people going, "Well, why is she able to fight so well?" She's also been living on a planet, having to protect herself from marauders and
with her staff,
else.
yeah,
with her staff, yes.
But if you can learn to use one weapon, you can
but not
learn
to the point where you can.
I think we are. I think you are. Well, go ahead and finish.
I was saying to the extent that she was using it like moves,
but she screws up, and it almost costs her. So
Yeah.
I would still say she's still learning. Obviously,
she's still learning, but one meditation and one fight with Kylo Ren, and suddenly she can use a lightsaber as well as.
I think
she's been training. I think she. Well, we don't know how long she's been on the planet.
And that's the problem. There's no explanation of how that happened.
There's never been explanation in Star Wars, though. I think that we forget that we let things happen in Star Wars for so long.
I agree, but if you go from The Empire Strikes Back to The Return of the Jedi, they openly explain when he goes to rescue everybody from Jabba the Hutt that he was been training. He's a Jedi Knight now. It shows the promotion in ability.
But he's only saying that because remember, he even asks Yoda after all that, he really am a Jedi. He was all it was a show.
Yeah.
He was trying to save his friends. It was just a show. He wasn't that. We have to remember it's only 6 months between Empire and Jedi, so it's not that much longer.
I would agree up until they try to kill him with the sandworm, and suddenly he Jedi Knights the way out of it and wins.
Well,
but
we're getting
into the originals, but the point comes to I don't think Rey should have been able to fight like that. In fact, it was so unbelievable that she would go to the Praetorian Guards after Snook. I was gonna say Snooky.
Your Snoke theory sucks, by the way.
My what?
Your Snoke theory sucks. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I was gonna say after Snoke dies, I want to curse like a little.
It's a
bitch.
Explicit show.
Like a little bitch. But suddenly she's able to fight off along with Kylo 10 Praetorian Guards who's been trained to guard the Emperor.
But she still almost
Supreme Commander
killed.
And
they
she
both
has
do.
the Force.
Up.
They
she
both
uses the
do.
Force.
Kylo, who's been training, and whatever, Kylo almost loses, and I'd say as far as technique and ability that they've showed in the movie so far, he's better trained than her, but she somehow can manage. I don't know.
I argue at this point, you just have to go with it's the Force. The Force does everything.
The Force doesn't teach you how to learn to fight.
She's learned on
it. You can learn how to utilize it so you can fight.
I don't know to that agree. If I had the Force right now and I went to the back corner and tried to fight, I'd get my butt kicked. Did you also raise yourself alone on a planet where you were fighting things all the time to survive? With a staff, no.
But my point is that when you're put into extreme ways, you're going to learn how to defend yourself no matter what. Yeah. And we see that in real life with people too. People who have been in extreme situations, who learn how to fight in extreme situations, learn to get themselves out of other extreme situations, no matter the tools that they're given.
Well, we're going to agree to disagree because I don't think she has the ability or should have had that ability. But that just gets to the point that I don't know. Some of the story marks didn't make it. It was, like I said, 8 out of 10 for me. But the film production of it and the writing decisions just went off the mark.
So moving on to, because I actually really like the whole Snoke death scene. I think
I
it
do
was a
too. I
great
think it's
twist.
fantastic.
Oh, I agree. I agree. He went out like bitch, but he was so overwhelmed with knowing he knows that he didn't know that it was going to happen. I get that, and I saw that, but I really wish there was more to it, because apparently Vader and Emperor Palpatine were supposed to be the only Sith left in the universe.
I don't think it ever was confirmed that he was.
He's not a Sith.
Yeah.
He's not a Sith Lord. So, and that's my thing is, I'm glad. I feel like what we're seeing is that there, again, we've uncuffed ourselves from what we know. Yeah, we're only seeing Force users, and I think that's what's very important, because even if you start jumping into Rebels, the show that's on Disney XD, is the idea that the Force, there's people who use the Force who may not be good, they may not be bad. There's bad, there's good, and then there's the people in between, like the Bendu. And I think that's very important in this film with Snoke, is that he is a bad guy who happens to know the Force, and whatever, like,
it just kills me that he's so powerful that he can take control of Rey, manipulate her, and Kylo bends the knee to him, and suddenly.
But he tricked her, or I mean, he tricked him. He tricked
him, and I think that's why I like it so much. Is he tricks him?
He used his pride. He used his pride against him, because he thinks because you can only see that.
I don't know. I don't think that whole. I don't think that. I think he's coming back. I honestly think he's coming back for the next movie.
That would be.
I don't. I think that he's going to be.
Phasma and Phantasma and Snooki is coming back for the next movie.
I mean, hey,
if I'm just saying, if there could be Force ghosts for the Jedi, there could be for the Sith.
I was even going to say, Darth Maul came back in Rebels, I think,
and Clone Wars.
Okay,
Clone Wars, yeah.
Okay.
And that's another thing is, Phasma. Don't know if she's dead. I probably think I think she's coming back.
I think we can assume she's gone.
As of right now, yes. But after Darth Maul coming back, there's the possibilities there. The same with the Emperor. Yeah, the lightning shot out from the shaft or whatever, but there was no actual body. And just like Darth Maul, there's no actual, except for the word. So I don't know. There's always possibilities. So there's places they can take it if they want to explore it. So
yeah, well, here's the thing with Phasma is I really like, even if it was the last time we were going to see her, it's still a great moment to go out on, because, you know, Patrick, you and I have Diego as our friend, and he kind of makes, you know, the point with The Force Awakens that everyone kind of opens up their movie by seeing their mask, and then ultimately it's unveiled like who they really are, and that's the whole idea. So to get a glimpse of Phasma in this movie, it's like, you know, it shows her weakness and shows her as a character. It shows her what she really is.
I think she's going to come back
for a brief glimpse.
I know. I just think she's going to come back because I don't know.
And I mean, whether she comes back or not, like, I'm cool if she does. I'm cool if she doesn't. You know why? Because movies have henchmen. Villains always have henchmen.
Yeah.
And some henchmen you like more than you like others. One of the most famous James Bond henchmen of all time was Oddjob, enough that when they made GoldenEye's N64, he was one of the playable characters. I mean, there's always the villain's henchman. And I think Phasma is a great henchman for Hux and the First Order, but I don't think she's a character that we need to dwell on because, as we said, we saw her without her mask now, and I think that that's enough. And I think that you undermine what, you know, Finn gets out of that moment in essentially killing his creator, because in a lot of ways she's kind of like Dr. Frankenstein, and he's Frankenstein's monster.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that said, what do we think about the ending of the movie? Not just the Luke basically trolling the First Order, but really the whole ending of basically the Jedi's not dead. Like, yeah, Luke is the last Jedi of the previous Jedi Order, but now it's going to be reborn, and it's reborn in the Resistance and reborn in Rey.
I want to talk about Luke real quick.
Okay,
my God.
Oh, well, Patrick, what did you think of? What did you think of the whole ending?
Necessary. It is exactly what I think. It was necessary, and I think that what Luke does in the moment leading up to the fact that they are able to escape, he learned from Obi-Wan what Obi-Wan did in A New Hope for them. Because on the Death Star in A New Hope, Luke watched Obi-Wan sacrifice himself in the same way to save them so that they could spark and save the rebellion. Remember that. No,
I agree that he learned from that. I do. And I agree that it's necessary, but the way it went down shouldn't have happened that way.
I don't agree. I think it's the perfect way.
The force projection is what I'm eyeing.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I love the force projection.
Why force project when you can just go there? And I understand he wanted to play on Kylo's emotions by appearing the way he was when he trained him. I get that, but because he knew he was going to die there. Yes. That's what he says it at the beginning of the movie. No, I agree. I know. I just think if you're going to go through all the effort of force project, why didn't you just go there and just die in person?
Because he's not. If he had let them kill him, they don't get the satisfaction out of this. And Kylo doesn't know he's dead. Remember, his last words to him are, "See you around, kid." Kylo doesn't know he's dead. Rey and Leia know, but Kylo will have no idea. Kylo isn't strong enough in the Force to actually pay attention to what's going on, as we've learned. So it's necessary for him to punk him like that.
No, he's strong in the Force. I just don't. He's not in control of the Force.
It was just a great reveal, and it's just and of course Hux and everyone, they're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
They're
it just basically destroyed the entire command structure. They had all these things fire on him, and he survives, and they're looking at each other like, well, damn, I underestimated that one guy versus all this.
Yeah, and we haven't got into this.
Do you think Hux is dead?
Oh no, Hux is alive.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean,
the other reason because that was a very strong force push into that wall.
I mean, in episode 9 they'll kill each other. I mean, something will have to give because, I mean, I think Hux will have to figure out a way to keep Kylo from not killing him, but still, yeah, I think Hux is alive. First of all, you just don't kill that dynamic just yet, especially now that, there's a power vacuum in the First Order between them two. So they're both going to be sleeping with one eye open. All the time.
I think Kylo's a little bit safer than Hux, but
yeah, well, yeah,
or excuse me, Ben. I don't know what he wants to call himself.
Kylo. Yeah,
I know. I don't know. I think the death scene, the actual death scene for Luke back on the island was too exaggerated. It should have been quicker. It should have been. I can see it still panting, still tired, leaning on the rock, and it just goes to the Two Sons music, and he disappears. The whole getting
beautiful.
Back up and resting there in peace. Okay, I get it, but it was not.
Which is so beautiful. It's such a beautiful ending for Luke. It's such
the sequence was. You're right. It was beautiful. It went back to Tatooine and the two sons there, but I think it was too long. It should have been shortened.
I don't agree with that. The reason why is because I think that you play up the fact that he finally finds the peace after everything. I think we deserve to watch him take those final moments of peace as he stares off into the sun. Because like anything else you're watching when it comes to the hero in the sunset and whatnot, you watch it and it plays out. And I felt like that was a nod to that.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, it gives the whole fight, Luke and Kylo fight, gives everyone enough time to get out. Even though it's funny that Luke just assumed there was another way out. But yeah.
Well, that was Disney play, like right there, all the way. Let's have a cute little fox lead the way for them to get out.
Lucas did things like that. That's not just Disney.
Oh no, I agree, but the way it was done was complete. I felt it was completely Disney.
But again,
I still think it's clever.
Lucas did that shit in the original movies. We have to get past the fact that Lucasfilm is owned by Disney and is making their own decisions. Disney has nothing to do with it. Sorry, it's a real sticking point with me, especially when people overlook the fact that Lucas put the fucking Ewoks in Jedi.
And we can never forgive.
And Jar Jar.
Oh God, you're forgetting the Gungans.
Right, exactly. So how about we forget the fact that yes, Lucasfilm happens to be owned by Disney. They're making their own rules.
The point I was making about that is the entire time there's no way out. There's no way out. We looked at the schematics. There's no way out. There's no way. No way. Cute little fox. Let's follow him and see where that goes.
But didn't they say they didn't have schematics? I believe that's what 3PO says. Is they don't.
No, no. 3PO deciphers what R2D2 said, or no, not R2D2. BB-8, and says, "Oh, I have taken a look at the schematics. That is the only way in, and that's the only way out."
But
there's no way out from the breach of term.
Yeah, but a creature, we think that.
But the creature finds a way out, which happens to be rocks, and suddenly,
they live on the planet.
I mean, Force user Rey that has all of 5 minutes training moves all the rocks.
Oh,
whereas Luke, months of Luke's training with Yoda, he barely can do a handstand. With
I have something to say. I think if anyone's ever watched Looper and ever wondered what the fuck, how does any of this time traveling shit works? There's a whole. I think Rian Johnson makes a whole scene about if we talked about the time traveling, we would be all here every fucking day discussing it. So I think, for what Rian Johnson's trying to do here with a lot of this is be like, it's fantasy. Some of this is just going to have to, you're just going to have to forgive. It doesn't all make sense. And the Force is kind of ambiguous how it works. But in the end, it's all about, we just need to get from plot A to point A to point B to point C to point D to the Z. We need to get there. So I think for Ryan, I think he just needed to get to everywhere he needs to go. And but then again, we've seen Kylo and Luke, they just destroy the fuck out of buildings. So why not? Why not give Rey the, chance to be like, okay, I'm now going to earthbend.
It's just the difference in training. Sorry.
I know, but she is very strong with the Force. The Force is ambiguous.
It is ambiguous, but Luke was on that freaking planet for months with Yoda and did a handstand raising one rock, and suddenly
he wasn't there for months though.
For like 2 days.
It never specified the time. Really, it didn't. But you also got to.
But I think that you're assuming the same thing, that to make up reasons for why you want to accept that Luke could do it, but Rey couldn't.
I think Rey is stronger than Luke.
No, I agree. I agree. Like Luke said it himself, he hasn't seen that kind of Luke has seen all these people, Vader, the Emperor, and he's afraid of Kylo and Rey more than them. So they are definitely more powerful than all of them. And I get it; she's more in tune, but she has that much control over that many little training to move fucking 16,000 rocks. It's unbelievable to me, and I'm totally immersed in that world. Like I would believe it if she had more time.
I don't know. I mean, I watched Luke pull his starfighter out in almost the exact same amount of time, or Yoda do it for him. But I mean, the fact of the matter is,
do it for him.
Yeah, that's what sway.
Yoda did do it for him.
No. But basically, my point being is, even then, Luke was also a lot more flawed in his way of thinking. He wasn't as strong. I think that Rey, with the amount of that she's already had to go through, the fact that she's clearly always been in tune with the Force in one way or another, knowing that she had special abilities of some sort, I think it's okay that she's able to lift rocks at this point. I mean, it's really not that big of a stretch, especially in everything else we've seen in this series.
And I want to mention it now, I really think Kylo is lying to her about her parents, but
she says it. Kylo didn't. I think that's what people are missing. She's the one who says it, not him.
No, he says it. He says it to her.
No, he does. No, she says that I came from nothing. They're no one.
Because she's lived her entire life on Jakku or whatever, and she hasn't had nobody. When I heard her say that, I was thinking, okay, she comes from nothing because she's like disowning her parents. Whereas Kylo says, "I've seen your parents. They're nobodies. They died of poppy farmers." Or
I sincerely hope it is nothing. Still, I
sincerely believe it is nothing. I sincerely believe that.
I mean,
because I think
up until Ben Kenobi force ghosts and says, "Hello, my granddaughter," or "Hello, my daughter."
It won't happen.
No,
zero
no,
chance.
No.
I know. I'm just saying.
I think that
they left it open because the way Kylo was trying to lure her into anger to his side.
But here,
what's angrier? What's worse is that your parents abandon you and they turn out to be nobody. That would make me mad. But if it turns out to be, oh, your parents are great Jedi, or like your dad's a great Jedi, automatically puts her on the Jedi side.
Even then, you know, it's still a great moment for her because she chooses to go. Yeah, she goes to the light.
It is a good deciding moment.
But the thing is too that we have to keep in mind is I just hope it stays the same, that it's nothing, because it has to be
powerful. Because the whole point of this movie was Ryan saying your guys' theories don't matter.
Your theory sucks.
That's the whole point. Like his whole thing with this movie is that everyone.
That's part of my argument. Is the point was all your theories suck, but what's the point of building all these questions from Force Awakens? Why don't they just do that then in character development?
Because the whole point is that it doesn't matter anyway. People are gonna be who they're gonna be. And I think that fans are so caught up in their own headcanon of what they think needs to be versus the reality of the situation. Dude, if Return of the Jedi or Empire came back out now, we'd have the same shit going on that we have going on right now over this movie. Because they have become so obsessed with that the internet gives them this voice and this echo chamber to decide that these are the things that are, not what actually is. And that is very, very fucking bad. And very, very much killing fandom because of it. And so here we are on the raggedy edge, and now people are wanting to assume that now Rey's parents have to be someone. And we're going to go down the same echo chamber all the way into the next movie where it turns out it's probably not anyone. And now they're going to be still upset. There's no winning.
But they're going to make different theories on what the Broom Kid is going to be now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But the whole point is it doesn't matter who he is.
That's the okay. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, and we're speculating at this moment, what if he does turn out to be someone? What if it's like, oh, that's some so and so's kid, and then, now he's the most important character, and suddenly all the speculation of the point of the second movie being disappointment and it doesn't matter where you're from.
Then it does matter. It's on Abrams and Tyrio because they are the ones making the decisions to retcon all the decisions Ryan made for this one.
But since Abrams helped make the decisions, there's no way he does that.
Yeah,
he helped make them, but he wasn't the final word on them. I don't feel that way anyway. And
you're not wanting him to be, because you're right. You said it yourself that you didn't want Ryan to do what he did, but Abrams hand in hand walked with him to do it. Abrams produced this movie.
I know.
I saw.
All I'm saying is this is basically up to Abrams how he wants to finish it out, because if he changes anything from what the direction Rian Johnson led, it basically comes down to my original point is loss of vision because of the changing hands of who directed the movie. So it's really up to God. I agree.
There's more vision than you think, though.
He produced it and all this stuff, but if Abrams doesn't finish out what Rian Johnson did in the second movie, it basically tells everyone else what Rian Johnson, he didn't agree with what Rian Johnson ended up ultimately doing.
But he did. He's even said more than once.
I agree.
He loved this script.
But like I'm saying, I'm speculating on the next film, because if it doesn't follow that suit, it says what he really thought about Rian Johnson's movie.
Yeah.
He produced it, he helped it, I get it, but who was the director? Who ultimately wrote it? Okay.
Yeah. But I without getting myself into trouble, I can tell you right now 100% is that Abrams knew exactly what they were getting into post Force Awakens, anyone, Trevorrow, all of them knew exactly where they were going.
Okay.
Regardless. And that's why Trevorrow was shuffled out.
So
I guess we can jump into it because I know you wanted to talk about it, is what happens next with Trevorrow and now Abrams coming back, is that Trevorrow's vision of what he wanted did not gel with what was already set forward, which is part of why Abrams was brought back in, is they wanted to make sure that what came across was the movie that they had all signed on to make.
Right. So continuing the theme of this movie.
Yes, and they are all well aware of the movie that they're making.
Okay. And yeah, so for the listeners not sure what Patrick is talking about, earlier in well, let me backtrack a bit because we have to get into Han Solo.
Yeah.
And
no, you might. I have things to say.
That whole thing, Han Solo, Leia, and Luke. That's an obvious plot point.
No, I mean the movie.
I haven't heard much about it. So
okay, so backtracking. Earlier in June, we found out that Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, the directors of Han Solo, or now Solo, a Star Wars story, they were they were shuffled out for creative differences towards the movie, and this was not before production. This was not a week into production. This was 3 weeks before production was over. While in hindsight, it's and they replaced Kathleen Kennedy and Lawrence Kasdan. They replaced them with Ron Howard. Ron Howard went to England and they filmed for God knows how long, 12 weeks.
I know how long.
I'm still kind of disappointed they didn't cast Jamie Acosta as Han Solo.
Who?
Oh,
Are you kidding me?
They got the best guy for the job.
We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I haven't heard a lot about the Han Solo movie, but
here's what I can say.
Okay.
75% of the movie was redone under Ron Howard, roughly. They went back to the Lawrence Kasdan script.
Mm-hmm.
Alden Ehrenreich was the one who had Phil Lord and Chris Miller taken off the project.
Okay.
He was not happy that they were turning it into a comedy. That was not the movie he signed on to make.
Okay. Can I ask a question though? Is the 25% stuff that they're keeping of Lord and Miller's, is that just stuff like visual effects and action scenes? It just
from what it sounds like, yes.
Okay. So
what are they in reshoot?
Well, they've been doing reshoots.
They finished.
They finished in mid-October, and they've been going about it. And there was supposed to be a trailer in front of. I'm just assuming there was supposed to be a trailer in front of Last Jedi because there's been a couple tweets suggesting there would have been from.
There was going to be until they decided to put all of their leverage on going all in on Jedi.
Okay.
They thought that it made more sense to do a stronger push to get Jedi out than it did to split the marketing.
So right now, it's interesting because this movie comes out. I mean, to me, and Patrick, you can tell me if I'm dead wrong. It seems to me they're still dead set on coming out in May, right?
Yes.
So we're 5 months out, and we have to get a trailer soon because this movie probably did cost like $250 million at this point. And
you're going to get a trailer very soon.
Okay, so all right, because that was my thing. Because it was either we get a trailer soon or it has to move to November or December, just so they can have time to market the movie. At least because right now they're barely just going to have time to finish the movie at this point.
You're going to see a major marketing push for Han Solo, Black Panther, and Infinity War over the next month and a half.
Okay, so like Super Bowl and all that.
You're going to see a lot.
Okay. I will go with that. So, and then the other thing, a couple months later, literally, I think 2 months, about 2 months later, Colin Trevorrow, who has been working on episode 9 since 2015, he got let go of a Star Wars episode 9 for creative differences. And then a week later, obviously, Abrams and Terrio came back to do the rewrites and for Abrams to direct the film. And so my kind of thing is, what is going on at Lucasfilm? Because, and look, it sounds to me that the Han Solo thing is now becoming more under control versus 6 months ago. And it sounds to me that the episode 9 thing is going to be more in control now than ever. So it's my question is, why did we hire these people to come out and to make these big movies, and then kick them out, after years of working on them? Because my thing about this is, look, Colin Trevorrow, I don't think was gonna. Sorry, I keep hitting the mic. I don't think was the best choice to make episode 9. I just didn't see it. I thought it was a weaker choice. But still, when he got let go, it was still bittersweet because you knew he had moved his family to London. He was prepping, he was, working there and living there. And now that's all upended. And it's just like, why did we hire these people? Like, do you not have meetings with these people? Or why, or for Han Solo's sake, why did you not, how did you not see a month into this production that this was not going to go the way you think it should go? Is my question. So I put that kind of question to you, Patrick. Like, is there any given reason yet why it took? What?
Hello?
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, Patrick, why did it? Is there any given reason why it took just so long to get, them offset? If Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were not making the movie they wanted to make. Because that shouldn't have been Alden Ehrenreich's responsibility, in my opinion.
You saw how the PR was now? Imagine had it happened at the beginning. And honestly, it's more salvageable at this point. I mean, they basically did what they could do at Lucasfilm to control the situation as best they could. There's certain DGA rules that rule in favor of what director will get certain credit for a movie. And they tried to play into that as part of the decision-making process, because whatever footage is left over it sounds like to me we're never going to see most of that footage. Just straight up, we aren't.
Yeah, and
they weren't making the movie that they signed on to make.
Okay,
and that's on them.
Yeah.
I like Phil Lord and Chris Miller. I championed them getting the role. I wanted them to succeed in this movie. I wanted them to make a very cool Han Solo movie. And to be honest with you, I'm more relieved now than I was that they've been let go. I think that a lot of people are going to be once they see the movie. I think that it was smart for them to step in when they finally did, and for Lawrence Kasdan and Kathleen Kennedy and Alden Ehrenreich to take the film back. I think that was what needed to happen. And I think it had to be used to make an example, because they extended a hand to try to help, and they were basically shoved off.
All right. Yeah, well, and I'm relieved that most of the movie has been reshot, primarily because it'll be more of a Ron Howard movie than a mixture of two, or I guess now 3 directors. Mm-hmm. So, because that was one of my big things with Justice League was it was the product of 2 different directors and a studio.
Too much. So
I think if there's one creative vision more than the other, then I think that's better. But it's just still it's kind of disheartening because
I would like to make an aside real quick as well. This isn't the last you've heard about Justice League. Let me just throw that out there.
We're still hearing about it. Yeah.
You're still going to hear about it for the next
I have not
6
seen
months.
it, so.
Oh, lucky you.
I heard it was just trash.
But Joe, what do you think about all this? Now that we've unveiled the curtain for these movies a little bit.
I see the theme of disappointment. I really do for it, because I was kind of disappointed in the movie. But maybe I tried to go in with a blank slate, and after talking about it, maybe I had a little bit more predisposed ideas in my head that I wanted for the film. And that's why, I mean, I'm hoping the third time after talking about it, I'm hoping the third time I see it is going to change some perspective. But I have to say, I'm still sitting at a 5 out of 10 for filmmaking, and the story itself, though, I love the story. So it was easy 8, 9 out of 10. So I'm sitting at 7 out of 10 for that movie for myself, seeing behind it and talking about it. But there's a lot of things that I'm real big into lore that I just can't. I mean, I see what the perspective you two have. I don't feel the same, and I can't. I agree to disagree with some stuff, and that's okay.
And that's fair. I think that's completely fair, because I mean, I knew after watching the movie, I even said to my friends Brandon and Chris, I think I sent a text to you or Diego, but I said Rian Johnson trolled the fuck out of this audience. Like, he really is trolling.
My review ended with me saying this movie is going to leave some fans uncomfortable and other fans mad.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what it was going to do. I mean, it's Empire Strikes Back 30 plus years later.
Yeah. But
I mean, it's exactly the same scenario.
Yeah, in reception, yes.
And you're right. You're right. I was just showing Kale something on my phone. They've actually started a petition to remove The Last Jedi from canon. It's actually, I thought it was a joke. But there's already 25,000 signatures to remove it from canon.
Oh God, my head hurts. Damn it!
Like, and it what's crazy is you're over here talking about Justice League, and that's the big comparison right now for The Last Jedi and Justice League. Justice League audience score is 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Last Jedi is sitting at an astounding 52%.
The Last Jedi is also getting attacked by a bot group that's actually taking credit for it.
Okay.
So we should be mindful of that, because
that's true.
One thing,
I didn't know about that, but we should be mindful of that. That's that's going on, and I hate for that it's going on. But I basically took out all the credits from Rotten Tomatoes, and there's actually a couple sites that I take in consideration, and I took out all the critics, and I just went to audience, and I even took out the audience that have like 3-star ratings, because they keep on making their voices heard on critics and stuff. And the audience itself, I'm telling you, there's 106,000 comments on this Rotten Tomatoes audience, or something like that. I might be exaggerating, but I'm pretty sure it was 10 to 100, and most of them are 1 to 2 stars. And bot groups, you can't set a bot command to say, oh, make specialized random comments that make sense. Somebody's actually making these comments.
No, you can now, apparently, enough that people are taking credit for it.
Jesus.
I mean, that's
talk about Skynet. But I
know. And so just real quick to like kind of put this whole thing into focus with that.
Yeah.
Is that there's 4 separate scores that we can all look at when it comes to things like this. We have IMDb, which is sitting roughly around 8 right now, unless it's gone down a little bit. We've got the cinema score, which was an A. That's taken from people as they walk out of the theater. People poll people while they're going out, and that's where the score comes from. Then you have Metacritic, and then you have Rotten Tomatoes.
But you say they're scored as they're walking out, but which theaters? Is it the pre-screening critic theaters?
It's regular screenings.
It's regular people screenings.
Okay.
I've actually filled them out before. It's very interesting. Like, they give you an iPad, you go through it, and you go through a whole survey of what worked, what didn't. You rate.
Well, they should have been at my theater, because I'm telling you, there was people clapping and there was people booing on the way out of the theater for both first and second time I went to see it.
That's very interesting, because almost everyone in my screening was. I think everyone was applauding.
It was.
They were applauding at the beginning, yeah, Star Wars, yeah. But at the end, as they were walking out, they're like, man, what the heck had just happened?
The only time,
and I think it's the trolling, really.
Yeah, the only time my audience booed was the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom trailer.
Yeah,
that was the only one where everyone was just like,
yeah. All I want to point out though is that those three things, you have to like IMDb, you have to have an account to rate.
Yeah.
Metacritic, same thing. Obviously, Cinema Score is going to be the closest to what we all actually know.
Yeah.
Because it's coming from people walking out of the theater.
Yeah.
It's an average. It averaged an A. A+ is the best you can get. A is like good to great, and A- is like good. Anything after that is when you start to wane. So a B and under is not good cinema score.
Then I just don't know where all this, like, if you bring up Star Wars The Last Jedi review just in Google, the top 5 headlines for news is what will happen to episode 9 for all the fan audience backlash. Like that's the Variety, Fortune, all of these different magazines, websites, publishing groups.
Because it doesn't matter. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that because of this bot group, this actual group taking credit for what's going on, Deadline did a whole thing about it yesterday. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It just doesn't, because it doesn't matter what they do anyway. That was the whole point of the movie. Again, I would like to reiterate that the whole point of this movie is that as fans, we need to let go of what we know.
Yeah.
And these people, you just said it yourself, you've got people petitioning, trying to get this thing out of the canon. These people don't need to be listened to. I know that sounds harsh, but it's time to let go. You have legit criticisms, and it's okay to have criticisms. It's a whole different thing to be so fucking psychotic that you're sending people death threats, that you're acting like this. Like, you guys remember, like, my job
out of your way in your time to set up bot groups just so the bad scores.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, someone's fully taking credit for this. That's fucking crazy. And that's what we need to remember. Like, it's okay not to like the movie. I completely support people not liking the movie. I want to have a discussion about why you may not like the movie. I may not agree with why you don't like the movie, but at the end of the day, it's totally cool. It's your opinion, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But Jesus fucking Christ, get a grip. I had someone try to tell me that this was the worst thing that's happened to them since 9/11.
Oh God! What the hell?
Get a fucking grip.
Get a life.
That's a little much. That's a little much.
Yeah, I would be like, dude, get a life, get a job,
Good
do
Lord.
something.
What have you been doing with yourself since 9/11?
Oh my God.
We got to put this stuff into perspective. Like, stuff like this is not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous. I mean, I got it. Like, I understand why you and a few people and a lot of people are not happy with it. But the thing is, I think in the end, we have to realize is, Rian Johnson did troll us, but the whole idea, but like Patrick, like you said, the whole idea is we have to let go of everything we know about Star Wars in order to continue on to the next generation. And that's what I think. And that's my prediction right now. But episode 9 it's about the next generation.
You say that, but they've advertised this as the closeout of the Skywalker saga.
You mean episode 9?
Well, I mean, there's still a Skywalker.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, there's
But let's be honest, like we've all known this plan since Han Solo in The Force Awakens. They're gonna kill one off in each movie to just round out. Oh, no more Skywalkers. We got to go to a new generation.
We still have Kylo, who is in Skywalker blood.
Dark side doesn't count.
And on top of that, we're still following the effects of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
We're still following the effects of Leia, what Leia, Luke, and Han had going forward, or what they had, basically, unfortunately, set up in, The Force Awakens.
You know what? You know what the effects are of the Skywalkers? There's no fucking effect because nobody answered the call.
That I would not bet on that by the time the next movie starts.
Oh no!
We also have to remember.
It was just a joke towards the end of the movie.
Okay.
Sorry.
I do want to point out though, because I have seen people talking about that, and they're like, "Why is no one answering?" In the Bloodline novel, the galaxy finds out that Leia's father is Vader, and that's why she's taken out of the public.
Oh yeah. No. I'm gonna be honest.
I just wanted to help.
I skimmed the movie or the books. I'm sorry, but I agree. But this at the same time, you got to also, if you're just looking for the movie standpoint, you got to look at what just happened. Both the Starkiller base was destroyed, so that really hurt the. Saying you got to remember what happened in the last two movies is Starkiller base was destroyed, which really hurt the First Order, and right before it got destroyed, it annihilated the galaxy, holding the core planets. I mean, the Republic is not really a republic.
Yeah, well, everything is a power vacuum.
Yeah. As far as governments are concerned, there is a power vacuum. The First Order is really hurting. The way they talked is there's not a million, I'm exaggerating, but there's a lot of dreadnoughts. The way Poe was talking, it's not every day you get to take out a dreadnought. Like there's multiple. And then you have supremacy, and I didn't even get a chance to talk about that whole gas thing. That pissed me off.
What?
The whole plan of the movie was trying to get this ship because it's running out of gas. You're telling me that? Oh my god! I'm just opening a new conversation.
Yeah, let's.
Anyway,
but
there was a lot of happening, so there's not really a government or anything. There's no republic really. There's rebels now, and they're sparking anew.
Yeah, well, the resistance. All right, so with that said, do we have any more conclusive thoughts on The Last Jedi?
I think that people should, once you see it a first time, I think it's good to see it again. You know the movie you're getting into. I think that's very important, to be completely honest. And then after that, I don't know, man. Just let it be the movie that it wants to be. Give it a chance. You don't have to like it. You don't have to love it, but give it a chance.
Like I said, I'm sitting at a 8 out of 10 for the story. So I like the story. I liked their ideas for the character development. Rey and Poe and Finn was, aside from the beginning, was well thought out. Rose is needless and unnecessary, and Phasma.
I don't agree about Rose.
I don't agree
at all.
I liked Rose.
I hated Rose so much.
I just don't. I liked Rose, but ahead.
There's got to be a reason for it, because just out of nowhere, just character pop-ups, and I get it. It's gonna happen. The whole movie.
Every character pops up eventually.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't like her character at all. She's random, and had no progression to the story except for the casino, and the forced input for PC animal cruelty social warriors. So.
Okay, all right.
Anyway,
on that note, I love the movie and I liked Rose. I thought it was a fantastic character. I liked that this movie had one central theme and like a tree, every character branched out and had a theme attached to it. They all had to learn something. They all had to learn something that will progress them even further in the next movie. So, with that said, I really loved episode 8. Yes, I've seen episode 9. I got a sneak peek. Abrams was fantastic.
That's amazing considering he just made the movie.
Yeah. It was incredible. Episode 8 was incredible ride. I can't wait to see it again. And yeah, I'm into it. So with that said, Patrick, where can the good people find you?
The good people can find me on Twitter at PJ_Campbell, or at Facebook at Patrick Campbell /PJ. You can find my movie reviews at SoCalThrills.com. And, you find me in Los Angeles or Burbank, walk on the other side of the street. Please don't bother me. Thanks.
Okay. Joseph, where can just everyone, come and scream at you to disagree?
On the street, you can approach me on the street. I'm a very dangerous person, though. You don't want to do that. But you can find me at Solitary Photography on Facebook. So,
all right, and you can find me at Movie Kale, and you can also follow this podcast at the Youth Critic, and you can also follow this channel that distributes the podcast at KHZ Network. Thanks, everyone. We will be back with you next. I think this is the last episode for. I think we'll be back for something. I don't know quite yet, but we'll be back. We'll be back soon. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back with you next time.
the First Order down.
This is not going to go the way you think. Fulfill your destiny.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.